I've made those for the last 4 or 5 months, and I think you were on the first card, so it's nice to see you on here. Let's see, 7 messages. Oh, yeah, we got the originals together. Hi, Susan. Nice to see you. Come up if you'd like to chat. But yay, there she is. Say hi. See, I'm figuring this out. Say hi to Teresa. Um, oh, I'm not so vocal though. That's all right, Teresa. I get that. That's understandable. Uh, Susan, I was just telling Teresa. I don't know if you heard that part or not. See if I can put this up here so I don't have to hold it. My wife has a phone stand, and that will be more relaxing for me. Selfishly. Uh-oh. I don't need a hat anymore. I'm trying to figure out how to sit so that I could be comfortable. Susan, I was just telling Teresa. Teresa is on here. You can hear me, I assume, but Teresa's on here from TikTok. I know Susan and I connected first, I think, on Instagram or Threads. Instagram, I think. Oh yeah, I guessed. Um, so I think you can like request up if you want. I'd love to have you, Susan, or you can just sit and hang out. Oh yeah, both. It was both. I'm not good at reading these messages either, and I don't think I can respond in the messages. Um, yes, I met you on Threads and Instagram, but I forget which one was first. And you were in early, Susan. I'll always remember that. And so was Teresa from here on TikTok. I think in the original, forget what month that was, February or March, but she was um, an original person to give it a try to. I have those index cards. There's like 20 names on the index card now that's in my car. Um, and I didn't make one last month because I got overwhelmed with first we were on vacation and then there was names from uh, TikTok and Threads. There were a lot more names from Threads and a couple more from TikTok than normal, and so I couldn't. I just never got them all together, which I felt badly about. But in the first index card that's in my car, and I still have it in my car. I just put each one in front of the other. So now there's one with the 20 names on it, but behind that there's one with 9 names and then 7 names and then the original 5. I think there was 5 the first month. Guy named Andrew, um, Susan, Nancy, and I think there was 2 Teresas, TH and TR. This is Teresa TR. So anyway, that's a long story. I'll tell you another story real quick, and then if somebody wants to come up, oh, there's 5 new messages. I'm so bad at this. Yeah, another Nancy. I think we had 2 Nancy's, but Nancy's on the list as well. Hi, Nancy. Streakers joined, which I'm very excited about. I talked to Streaker for a long time, longer than intended. No offense, Streaker. I loved our conversation, but I think I told you that I was already pretty wiped out, and I was trying to figure this out, how to put that banner up there last night. And so I was practicing on TikTok live, and then all of a sudden I was not practicing, and we were live and having a conversation, which I thought a lot about today. Streak, I thought a lot about our conversation last night. Thanks again for all that time. And I thought about JL and I thought about Earth, but we don't have to go. Good to see you. About a year ago. Oh man, I gotta pay better attention. I gotta pay better attention to these. I left church and Christianity. I gotta pay better attention to these comments. For anyone that's new, which is kind of everybody, I'm newer to this, so I will miss comments, and I don't mean I don't mean to ignore. I left church and Christianity probably a while ago. Well, welcome, Pillow. If you want to stick around, you're certainly not alone. I mean, I'm sure you have your reason for leaving, and So do a lot of other people. So I just want to encourage you. That's why we felt the need to create a place for people who left church. If you want to come up and chat about it, or if Streak wants to come up, or Susan, or whoever, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. I'm good either way, but I'll try to be more mindful. You're a Muslim now. How is it? Well, it's hard to answer in messages. Pillow gaming. Streak and somebody else taught me how to handle moderating or watching the comments. Love you and hope you have a good day. All right, thanks for stopping in, Pillow. Christianity about a year ago. Oh dear. Circle. Too big. Right now, and then it changes. If somebody comes up in the live as a panel, it changes the background. I'm getting too old for this technology, I tell you. I asked one of my kids to walk me through how to do all this stuff. They know all the TikTok dances. So Susan and Nancy, I saw Nancy too. Nancy and Susan and Streaker, maybe a couple other people. So I don't really know where to start. Streak, I know, heard a little bit of this last night. I don't want to rehash everything. Although, like I said, I thought about our conversation last night. Streak and a couple other folks joined me last night. I didn't intend to go live last night. As most of you know, I go live on Wednesday nights. Every Wednesday night. That's my plan, at least. Unless something forbids me from doing that. I'll go live on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So, but to discuss kind of what it is that we're doing here and to answer some questions. So I have a couple things I hoped to share. Here we go. Except, uh-oh. Hi, Earth.
Hey there, Ryan.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Were your ears burning today? I was talking about you.
Yeah. Hey, I was just saying the same thing. Can I'm going to accept up Streaker, but if you guys don't mind, or you can hop back down or stay up here, whatever you like. But I'm going to talk to a few other people about the church
I have a
itself.
question. I have a
Yeah,
question
go
for you,
ahead.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Pillow says that he's under 18, and so each host is allowed to set the age that they allow people up on their panel. I don't know if you want people under 18 or not. We asked him to get in the box so he could talk about the whole Muslim experience kind of thing. And he said he's not under 18. He's not sure if he's allowed.
Okay. I definitely would prefer to talk to over 18.
Okay.
But I have not done anything to set that up. Like if I need to click something or switch something to,
You have to do it before you start the live.
okay.
It's in your settings and where you like put the quote or whatever you want to put about what your live is about. And
Yeah,
then there's a little thing that says 18 above, and you just have to check that box. If not, then it doesn't restrict it to 18 and above.
I got you. Oh man. Look how many times I tried to do. Oh, it's still in the same spot. Thank you, Streaker. I do most adults or most people that go live, do they restrict it to over 18 or no?
It depends on what the topic of discussion is. My live was always 18 and above because we always talked about hardcore politics and things would get really hairy in there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
mine,
so I
mine
always
was
had mine
also.
18 and above, but you don't have to. It's
Okay.
completely up to you.
Do you know if you have to do that every single time?
You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, Thank you. So for the next little bit, I'm gonna. I would love to continue our conversation from last night. I was tired, but I loved it. But I was going to address I've been coming on every Wednesday night on at 9 o'clock to talk to the people that are trying this church. Because I essentially have been in the process of rolling it out for several months, and September is a big one. We're trying to be more intentional about connecting with the people that are trying it. The first time I did it was I think February or March, and there was like 5 people that joined.
I can drop back down. It's not a big
No,
deal. I'll
I'd
just sit down
I'd
and
love to have you
listen.
stay up. I think they're in here and just listening, so I'd rather have you stay up if you don't mind. But
Oh, no, I don't mind at all.
I don't want
No,
to take
that's
your
fine.
time either because it may not be as exciting as last night's conversation.
Hey,
Um,
Streak,
Hey, Earth.
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, babe?
I was telling Ryan that I didn't know if his ears were burning because I talked to a friend today and talked about our conversations last night, and she's a little bit more anti-religion than I am, and was surprised that I was trying to, learn how to talk with Christians again. But she liked Ryan's idea and thought that it was very something that was needed, in this day and time, and wanted me to give kudos to him for trying to be an open-minded, Christian that,
Mm-hmm.
was okay with discussion. And we talked about, what we had experienced last night. And one of the things that I sort of walked away with Betty and I's conversation was that, it is very difficult for someone like myself who is totally on the outside now to reconnect with a lot of the decent Christians that really do want to have conversations. And that was what she wanted to applaud you for there, Ryan, was that, and I told her about your index cards and, being that were in hospice because she had hospice in when her husband passed away. And she didn't remember if they had asked that question of what religion you are when they went through the process, and she couldn't remember that was one of the questions that was. And I told her it probably was different in every state. I think that was sort of what you implied last night in our conversation, Ryan, that when you were in Chicago it was different than it is where you are now. And
You're exactly right. I think it's oftentimes in like hospital intake forms, I think, where it'll say religion. I think you could probably skip it at the hospital. I could skip the question if I wanted to in Chicago. But here on my initial assessment on the computer, like there's like 10 sections that are blue that I have to put something there in order to go to the next screen. And the religion here where I live now is blue. So I have to put something there in order to go to the next screen. Or like I said, sometimes if the conversation is intense on my initial visit and there's no organic opening for me to ask about their religious background, I just put like non-denominational or something and change it later. But that's what started this project. Well, that's what officially launched this project. It's been in the making since I became a chaplain. So for 15 years, it's been in the making. But the actual gathering of information and conversations that informed this church, and they informed it almost entirely, because I have considered all 13 of those things when we figured out, look, okay, the church is off track. Maybe somehow the church will get back on track. Maybe it will stay off track and get worse, in which case everyone should jump ship or it should kind of fold in on itself. And then my question became, well, what would it look like? What would the church look like if the church were gone and I was tasked? And I know Earth would be like, just leave it there. Why would you want to rebuild it? But if the church were gone and I was tasked with the project of rebuilding it, I thought, what would I do? What would I do to minimize the things on this list that people gave for why they left? And that made me go through each one individually and think, is this, it's obviously a valid reason to leave because people left for that reason, but is it a necessary part of the church? Like, hey, come to church, but there's always that 1% risk or that 3% risk or that 10% risk that one of these things is going to make you want to leave. And the more you go through all 13, the more you realize they shouldn't be issues in the church. If the church was what Jesus had in mind when he spoke of the church, and Peter and Paul after that, you wouldn't have these issues, in my opinion. I guess you could have, I don't know. We talked about the financial corruption within the church, which I could talk about for hours and hours and hours. We talked about, what else did we talk about? The LGBTQ community, I think, was one of the church hurt, which
Uh-huh.
we
We,
talked
we
about.
went through quite a few subjects. Let me sort of interject here to
Well,
somebody in the comments.
yeah.
You need to be sort of patient here. He's basically trying his best. It says, "Why do Christians neglect people so much?" And I'm requesting up, and he does nothing. Larry, that's that. Give him a chance here, and don't be a little bit patient here. He's doing his best in starting out, learning how to do these lives, and you sort of got to have a little bit of patience with people. And I hope you can be a little bit more patient here, and I'm sure he will. If you've requested up, he's probably going to have you up, and chill a moment. I mean, we're okay, we're good.
Thanks, Earth. I'll get to that in 1 second. Just give me one more minute, if I may, to talk to Nancy and Susan and Teresa, and I think there was maybe one other person that was on here. You guys got the index card, hopefully, with the 20 names on it. Like I said, you guys are on the first card, which is a special thing to me. So thanks again. But we got the index card with the names on them. There's too many names on them, I think. So, well, not too many. It's a good problem to have, but it's an unrealistic list to like memorize and to have in your mind from time to time. So I didn't know how we could either break it up or figure out something to do. Just so new people know, we are creating a church for people who left church. Susan shared her story, a bit of her story as to why she left. I heard a little bit from Streak and Earth last night, but this is what we came up with. If you kind of got rid of the church and you were like tasked with making a new one, and you were to look to the New Testament to say, what should this church look like? I came up with these three things: to read the Bible together, one book every month. So in September, we're reading the book of John together. There's a group of, I don't know, 15 of us now. We pray for each other as we read through that book, not at any set time, not at any, you can do it, you can pray once a month or once a week or every day, whatever you want to do. But I have a list of the names of the people that are trying to read John in the month of September. And I pray for them each day. I have the index card in my car. And then the third piece, so read the Bible, pray for each other. And the third piece is to do something to help the poor. And I won't go into the whole background, but that's essentially the responsibility of the church. That's the one of the sole purposes of the church, is to care for the poor, to go and make disciples. I think to advance the gospel of Christ is what we're called to do. We do that best by loving people. People will know that we are Christ's disciples by the way that we love one another. So we're not doing a great job collectively. And then Peter and Paul had this split, and Peter says to Paul, just make sure you remember to care for the poor. And Paul says, that's all I was going to do anyway, when he was taking the gospel to the Gentiles. So that's what we do. All we do is money for the poor. We don't take any money. There's no giving money to me. I'm never going to sell anything. I think that will become my reasoning behind that, I think, will become more clear over time, I think, because it's getting harder to tell who's telling the truth and who's being paid to tell us. I don't know. That's a separate topic, but I will never take any money or accept any money. Our church won't. We'll never ask for 10% or some tithe or something like that. But if you want to be involved, those are the three things that we do. Read a book of the Bible together each month and pray for each other as we do it, and then do something to help the help the poor. We do four things. I have my family involved in this, very involved, my little kids, because we don't go to church anymore. We're doing this. And so I want them to understand the importance of considering other people better than ourselves and to help people in need and to be loving and to be respectful and things that my parents, I think, did their best to instill in my brothers and me. And I think I'm kind of following their blueprint because they parented well. I'll be brief. I'll try to finish up and then we'll.
Ryan, can I
Yeah.
ask you what type of chaplain ministerial program you actually went through?
Yeah, for sure. I went to a school called Trinity Evangelical Divinity School north of
Right.
Chicago.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yep.
I did my master's of divinity with under a guy named D.A. Carson, and then I moved from there. I had to do an internship at a church to finish that degree. The last part of your MDiv is to do some sort of ministry thing. So you could do like a whole year full time, or you could do a half a year part time at a church to meet the final requirements of the program. And I worked part time at a church. And the other part of the time, I worked at a senior living facility, and as a caregiver, making the hardest work, some of the hardest work I've ever done, making $8 an hour or whatever it is to take care of 10 people. It's hard. So lots of respect for the CNAs out there. And then I moved to like a supervisor role and then to the director of resident care or something or other. And then someone I worked with kind of recruited me to be a hospice chaplain. They were like, didn't you study this stuff? Aren't you qualified to be a chaplain? And I was qualified with as far as like education, but the company that I was hired with, the hospice that I was hired with had like 5 requirements and I did not have all of them. I had the Master's of Divinity, but I didn't have like 3 units of CPE, clinical pastoral education. You're supposed to have that to be a chaplain. Some places require a board certification. Some people require, I needed to be ordained by a church, which I wasn't at the time. And there was something else 3 years of experience. There was like all these things that I didn't have, but they hired me anyway, which is I'm grateful for. They hired me as like a resource on-call chaplain. I was able to complete my CPE through the hospice company. And then I got my 3 years of experience. So now I think they would hire me. And I'm glad they hired me back then. But that was in 2010. And so I don't really have any career other than hospice chaplaincy. I mean, the caregiving part was great. So real quick, sorry, those are the 3 things: read the Bible, pray for each other, do something to help the poor. I am involving all of my family in the do something to help the poor part. And it doesn't just mean poor, I think can mean a few different things. So the first week of the month, we take a little bit of money to an elementary school in a couple towns over from us that has a lot of need. And so I met with the cafeteria, the director of dining services or whatever she would be called. And I said, we want to give some money to some kids who have a negative balance, who struggle to keep a balance on their cafeteria bill. And the gal she was like, yeah, I have some kids in mind for sure that could help. So we take a little bit of money to that each month on the first week. The next week, my kids pack lunches to take to folks that are unhoused. We just drive around until they get to pick somebody because they're pretty into it now, and we hand out the bags, and that's week number 2. I could tell you the last time we did it was really a really cool experience. Week number 3, we go to a senior living facility, which is right up my alley. But that's good for the kids too. It's good for the residents, of course, because all these young folk or all these older folks love seeing young folks. But it's good for my kids too, I think, because they are interacting with seniors and getting familiar, and the kids love it, the residents love it. So that's been a really good experience for us. And then the last week of the month, there's a foster home in our area, a boys' home, and we adopted. They have like 6 cabins, and one of the cabins was not like adopted, so we adopted one. So we go there once a month there was talk of me doing like a church service. They have a church service on Sunday night, so I may do that. But those are the things that my family's doing. But I know other people that have gotten involved are doing completely different stuff, like just picking, like trying to pay for somebody's meal or pay for somebody's Walmart shopping cart or whatever they're able to do. So that's the essential of that's the whole church. That's it. We read a book of the Bible together, pray for each other as we read it, and then do things to help people in need. So for Susan and Nancy and Teresa, that's the piece I have to figure it out. So I got the names, all the names of the people that we're supposed to pray for. My plan was to kind of make a chat thread in Instagram about like with everybody in there, but then I figured maybe not everybody would like to be in there if they don't want all the communication. So I've made it an option. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I'll make some more videos this week about how I think we can move forward. We're pretty opposed to Christian nationalism. That's been made very clear in our church. That's a number 4 reason. The politics is kind of a big reason that people left. And I know there's some people that would say, let's not have the politics and the church merge together. I think Christian nationalism is a very serious threat to our country and to the church and to everything. I think it's very dangerous, and it's not the first time in human history that we've seen it advance like this. And I just want to be on the right side of this. There was a motivation for me to do this when I look at these kids and I think of in like 10 years or 20 years, what did dad or what did whoever do during that time? Because we don't know what to do. Like, I feel like a lot of people that I talk with are like, this is not good. What do? We got to do something. And the best thing we can do is, I don't know, tweet about it or something like that. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm aware of I have my thoughts of what's going on in this country that I'm not particularly encouraged by. And I want my kids in 20 years to be, it's selfish, but to be like, hey, I did something. Like, what did you do? What did you do during this time? I'm like, I tried to speak out against Christian nationalism to the best of my ability. I don't know what else to do. I've gone to the march. There was the No Kings. I did that. I know people say, like, call your congressmen and senators, and I don't know that there's any. There's a friend of mine that calls like every day and leaves a message. Every day she calls like 6 people. Like, that's her way to try. So I don't. Good for her, but I feel like those are like one of those machines that just goes right into the trash. Maybe not. Maybe they're effective calls. What else can you do? So I don't know if they have any questions. We have people waiting. I don't know if Susan or Teresa or Nancy, did anybody ask a question in there? I will try to clear it up as we go, but this is the first real month that we're like trying to roll out how this church will work and answer questions and see what will happen. I get met with a lot of hostility. I can tell you that. And the hostility is from only one group of people. Can you guess who that group might be?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Brian, I do have
Start
a
with M and
suggestion.
end with an A.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go. No, it was just Christian folks. Christian folks don't like this project. That's why I said last night.
Really?
Yeah. This is going to go over like a lead balloon.
You said that about the homeless. I'll tell you what our group did. We would in about the end of September, October, we would all get together, and through the summer, what we would do is we would go to like the Army surplus supply and purchase sleeping bags, and we would buy toiletries and feminine hygiene products and things like that, and we would make up small little enough to hand through your window things that when we saw homeless people, everybody, we all carried them in our cars, and we would hand them out whenever we saw people on the streets or whatever. And those were some of the things that really just the homeless people really appreciated. Getting a toothbrush and a comb, and you would just small things. And when it became winter, we were giving out things like sleeping bags, and we had a few tents and things like that we'd give out to people that we knew that were hardcore. And, that's something that, you might want to add to your little thing is just making up little small packages that when you see somebody on the side, panhandling or whatever, you can say, hey, here's you a couple dollars and here's you a little package that had you know, and we had little crackers and things in them too, just something to snack on and maybe a can of Coke or something for them. And, it didn't, each one cost less than $10 for us. And, we ended up spending basically all of our funding that we collected through the year on that project for the winter. And it really, and we would go to the hardcore places and we'd have a truckload of our stuff that we gave out and it was gone in 5 minutes. I mean, it was no time that, you handed it out to a lot of the homeless people. And it really was, satisfying that we were able to, just do something small for those people that were really struggling. And, a lot of people don't think that, they want to have, you know, they look at them and they look at them as dingy, grungy people, and they don't think, well, hey, maybe they can't afford to go and, buy these items themselves. So, if you gift it to them, it, helps out a heck of a lot. So I don't know if you want to incorporate something like that, or you might already be doing it.
I love that idea. Yeah, thanks for. I'm open to suggestions. I want to try some other stuff. The boys' home. We were working with like the director of activities / social services, and she was the one that was coaching me, like kind of getting me up and running, because you got to go through the background stuff, and which is excellent. I'm glad that it took some effort to to get plugged in there. But then she resigned in like the end of May, and I've been trying to find out who her replacement is to schedule when I can go. And for the last 2 months, I've probably called 4 or 5 times, and I can't make any progress. So we don't have anything currently. We don't have anything in the 4th week of the month, and this is not a strict thing. There are times like that, a weekend that we're gone or something like that. We just do two the next week, or maybe we do one maybe it's 5 or 6 weeks between the senior center visits. It's not really like rigid. I think the when it gets that rigid, it can become discouraging for people, even when we're reading. So the gospel, we're reading John in September. There's 21 chapters, and it takes like 4 minutes to read a chapter, and you can just play it on your phone when you're driving to work. So even if that's all you do on the way to work, listen to the first chapter, and there's 21 chapters, but 30 days, so you get 9. I am sorry.
No.
I hear like a cricket almost, but I don't think that's me. Um, yeah, thanks. Holler at me if I can't. I have other questions for Streak too, if you can remind me. But so that's it. Even like when with the reading, I don't want it to be like if you get behind. Like I'm not on anybody's case. Like, are you keeping up, or did you finish the book? Who wants to give reading it a try? And if 20 people say they'll try, and only 5 people actually try, and only 2 finish it, I'm fine with that. Like, and at least give it a shot to make a community. I mentioned this last night. It feels like a lot of people who have left the church for all these different reasons. Many of them are now still considered themselves like Christians or theists or whatever, but they do their faith alone. And I feel like that stinks, that those of us that have left don't get the opportunity to be part of a community. And I was like, let's make one. I also think that
Well,
this is.
that's what I was that's what I was talking with my friend about when I was talking about you, is that her and I both, being non-Christians and leaving it long ago, that is something that we recognize. She's almost 80 something, and her being older, and she's secluded, and that companionship, fellowship means a lot, and it's harder for people like us to, there's not atheist church or anything like that. And I told her, I said, I'm experimenting reconnecting with some Christians because the open-minded ones like yourself in that church that I went and, dealt with for a while, they basically, gift you with that community. And I mean, I'm still connected to a lot of the people from that church because it sort of disbanded because of its situation. But, you know, I think COVID had so much to do with it.
Yeah.
It knocked a lot of things out of a lot of people, and we all sort of retreated into our little holes and stayed there. And I think a lot of people are trying to come out of that now, and so that's one of the reasons I admire what you're doing.
No, I appreciate it, and I think what made you come up. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what made you come up last night was a line that I said where I think what I said. I think atheists may like my church better than Christians, and I think that piqued your interest, and that's what made you be like, I'm going to request up. Um, if I am obviously not on board with Christian nationalism, and so that's what I mean when I say like my take on things, my brand of Christianity is not will not be very popular. I think I'll get if this ever gets more viewers, I think it will get a lot of hate, but the most of the hate will come from people who are
No,
Christian.
that church that I was involved with, they were attacked totally. I mean, they had a beautiful, beautiful sanctuary here in the city, and it was, a very progressive, activist, place to be. And they were vandalized multiple times because they had a rainbow painted on their front door, and so they got all kinds of, flack and hate from that. And the vandals destroyed that multiple times, and that was what got me involved to begin with. But it's hard being sort of on that progressive side of Christianity because people forget that supposedly that's what Jesus really was. He was, on that more progressive end of, what was, the Judaic thought at the time. And a lot of Christians and the church, especially, I believe the Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox have forgotten how liberal Jesus was in his thinking at that time. And that was what was the whole thing that really got it going, was that ability of the early church in my mind to say, hey, we can invite everybody. I mean, they were totally very socialist, communistic, and they shared everything. There was a lot that people don't realize that went on with the early church that is totally different from what it evolved into. And what you're doing, especially with the non-monetary, because when I was in the ministerial program I was in, the the part about money was what stopped me in my tracks with following that to the end. I mean, I am ordained, but I'm ordained in a pagan organization basically, and I was going the church I belonged to was a metaphysical church, so it was very ultra liberal, but it was on the far end of Christianity. And it's hard for people to get to that point to what you're trying to do by saying, hey, I'm not going to accept the monetary things. That's a hard row to hoe, Ryan, and I admire you for that. I mean, that puts you really at the top of the list for me. Just even trying to do it because it's so hard. I know.
Wait, Ryan, are you telling me that you don't want two private jets in your name?
Isn't that wild?
And
That nowadays, it's yeah. That you can, and I'll just tell people that this is what it means to be blessed. I must be doing
so
something. I must be doing
let me ask
something.
let me ask you a question, Ryan.
Mhm.
Because you said that you think that most of the opposition to what you're trying to do is or will come from Christians. Do you think that opposition will come from true Christians or people who are claiming to be Christians?
That's a really good question. I have, um,
And let me sort of moderate that by saying, when you say true Christians, that's the real Scotsman argument, I guess is what they call it. Where you know each Christian affiliation defines that, hey, we are the true
No,
Christians.
no, no, no. That's not what I mean. What I
No,
mean by that
I
is,
know what you mean. I'm just saying that
okay,
that wording itself
yeah,
is sort of
it's
um,
a good pointer because I didn't even pick up on that. I knew exactly what streak meant
I
with
knew
that.
what I did know what she meant, and I understand what she's saying totally, because that's what I'm saying about you, is that I wouldn't be here if I didn't think you were a quote unquote true Christian. I
Yeah.
see that in just the few little interactions I've had with you, and what you're trying to do. And, you also, Streak, is that, I can recognize that that is true, but I think that's the whole thing about why there's so much infighting between Christians, is everybody's always claiming to be the true Christian. But I'd like to hear your answer, Ryan. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. I think that is a good point uh, that you made, kind of for clarification, but also just the reality of like I can't really remember hearing much, and maybe it was in different circles, but in the last year or two, certainly since I've been on social media, but I've heard it in real life too, where people talk about they are not real Christians, and I always I always feel like a little uncomfortable with that, and I'll try to explain why. Like in my estimation, I think it's true that we should know that people are followers of Christ by the fruit that they're bearing. So you should be able to see people or the way they treat people by the fact that they're
hmm
loving. And so you see people who are like caring and empathetic and loving and kind and forgiving, like all these attributes, all these things that we would attribute to Christ's life. But you see almost the opposite these days from too many Christians. I don't say that judgmentally, like, hey, I've got it all together. It's the number one reason people left. Like we talked about before, the number one reason people left was because Christians are hateful and judgmental. So I know
Yeah,
exactly what Streak means when she's like real Christians. I know I'm hesitant to talk that way just because I don't know their hearts and on either side. Like there may be some people that are doing nice, kind acts to people, but they are racist or hateful or but they give their money or some whatever the case may
right,
be. So you're like, well, that or other people who are um, on the other side, like very angry and unpleasant, but there's reasons behind that, and they actually do love the Lord and are doing their best to follow Christ. So that they
right,
could be a Christian. It's just, but I think what you mean and what we can. It's a big reason we felt the need to make this is just it's getting harder and harder to find anything Christ-like about this within this Christian nationalism movement, and
right,
it's a big enough movement that true Christians, as you would say, people who are like, you know what, I actually like the original Jesus. Um, those folks are have become hesitant to use the term Christian and to use the term, so they'll refer to themselves as like, I consider myself a follower of Christ, or I call myself a follower of Jesus, because if I say the term Christian, most people have an idea in their mind of what that means, and it's not good. So they are like, I need to specify because I'm not this like ultra conservative kind of MAGA type of Christian nationalist Christian, because they got to hijack the word or whatever. They took the term Christian in the same way I feel like they took the flag. We can't really. My wife is like, we put a flag on the front of our house, and she's just like, it just looks. And I'm like, I know, it looks, especially where we live. But I
So,
feel
Ryan,
like,
I have a couple, and this is just for me personally, right? I have a couple of really simple litmus tests, right? Um, and I haven't been doing my own lives for about 6 months now because I was so burnt out and I just needed a break. So, um, but when people would come up on my panels and say, I'm a Christian, I voted for, and I believe in everything he's doing. So, the couple of things for me is, can you honestly tell me that you believe in God and you love Jesus Christ, and at the same time look me in the eye and tell me that you're okay with children being unalived in Gaza? Because those two things don't match. I'm sorry. And then the other thing is, oh Lord, when people would go, "We want our rainbow back." I'm sorry. Can you show me in the Bible where God gave only you the rainbow?
Mm.
And we didn't steal it from anybody. We just use it as a symbol. So I'm not sure why you're feeling some sort of way about it. So I mean, they're just things that for me, um, because I know how I was when I was still in the church. I also know how I am still, right?
Mhm.
Just because I left the church doesn't mean that the person that I am and the way that I treat other people and the way that I help other people has changed. It has not. Um, I just have a really hard time with that. I'm going to say that I love the Lord, and then I'm going to say that I want people snatched off our streets. I'm going to say that it's okay to watch these children being unalived half a world away. Like all of the things that are so not Christ-like.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think you and I are probably similarly minded when it comes to politics. Although I may have said this last night, like I've sat in on a few other lives with people who know politics a whole lot better than I do, and I just that's why I stay in the comments. I'm just kind of learning from other people. Like Good Trouble, I learn a lot watching him.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Not only just from how knowledgeable he is and the way he speaks and how articulate he is, but also the way that he handles like certain guests and certain comments. And he's done it for so long. He's kind of it seems like he's the top, perfected the craft, at least as far as I've seen. Um, but yeah, I 100% agree. So it seems like as people like I had the conversation with my dad. Like the reason that I feel like I need to create something as an alternative to the current church is because the church is so toxic in so many ways. They're great churches, but in a lot of ways, it's at least in my tradition. Like there are excellent churches in all different denominations. So I should be more careful not to generalize that
Is your dad a Christian, Ryan?
he is. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
But as true as they come, like you said, like you
Right.
would, he is.
Ryan, did you read that book by Bishop Spong about why Christianity must change or die?
Oh yeah, I did not read it, but I've had some.
It's really, I mean, even though it's a little bit dated at this point, but it's still very, you know, appropriate, I think, in this regards, because it does say a lot about the time that he wrote that. He was really talking to the people that we now are having to deal with on the right side there, that are, you know, have taken this Christian nationalism to the point that it's at. And he didn't specifically, you know, talk about that, but he did say that you know, Christianity itself must recognize that it needed to change what was it was heading for. And if not, we've ended up with what we've got right now, which is the reason you end up doing what you're doing, or you would have stuck
This
with
is
a
what
traditional
this is what I
church.
came up with as far as what I would create if the church disappeared tomorrow and I was tasked with it. This is exactly what I would do. These three things: read it, pray for each other, do stuff to help the poor. And the longer we go with this process, the more evident my our choosing those three things will become. If that makes any sense, like, it may sound like those sound like three random things, but there's a lot of reason to them. I'll give you one example. Christian nationalism only works if you have a biblically illiterate audience. So if you try to tell people that sin is toxic, or that or empathy is toxic, or empathy is sinful, or what it means to love people is really just to uh, point out their sin. So the most loving thing I can do for somebody else is sort of judge and condemn them, so that I can say, I did my piece. We got a taste of that from in our encounter. I don't have to name him, but last night there was a little bit of not hostility, but he was like upset because you guys were rejecting the message that's so important to him.
I
And
was
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
blasphemer. I'm the blasphemer heretic.
oh, can I let El Cap is it
Yeah,
Captain?
let other people.
Oh yeah, how's it going, guys?
Good to see you. How you doing?
Doing good, thanks to God. I
Good.
was just came across your live and started listening in, and I wanted to touch base on what you were talking about as far as the term Christian, because I struggled with that for some time also, not wanting to call myself that just because of what religion has done to Christianity. So I actually was fortunate enough, thanks to God, to find it's a local independent church, Christian church, has a very awesome pastor, and he actually said this past Sunday, religion has done a beautiful job at messing up Christianity. So that's why a lot of people are leaving the churches in groves, and a lot of churches just aren't following the Bible anymore, or rightfully dividing the Word of God. So whenever I talk to someone, they ask me, "Am I a Christian?" And I tell them, I say, "Okay, I am a Christian. I'm a Jesus following Christian. So I'm a follower of Christ, the term Christian." And I tell them, "Don't lump me into the current Christianity that is taking place in the world today. Of It's a mess. I mean, you've got 40 something thousand denominations. Everyone's kind of starting their own thing and straying away from the Bible." So I don't know. I just found your live pretty interesting. Started listening in. So I don't know if that helps. I just tell people I am a follower of Christ. I am a Christian, but not in the religious context of what a lot of these churches are doing this day and age.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for sharing that. That's if I can speak to that for a minute. Princess, hello, and Brandy, hello. Thanks for being here.
Hey there.
Princess, this is early for you. Princess goes live later in the day, and Streaks up
Oh,
there.
I'm here early.
I know. I'm about an hour from bedtime. I can tell you right now. Captain, is that the name, Captain?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Captain. I'll call you Captain. Thank you for sharing that. You're not alone. Your story is. I don't mean to say that it's like not unique, because everyone has their own feelings and their own reasons for why they feel like they're hesitant to identify with just the term Christianity because of what the term sort of has become. But I just want to encourage you that I have heard what you said from a lot of other people. So you're certainly onto something, and I think we all feel that. Those of us that have some familiarity with who Jesus is, what he taught, how he treated people, those of us that are familiar with that recognize that this Christian nationalism reflects Christ in almost no way. So it's important for us to keep that intact, I think. I think, like I said, the reason that you can advance Christian nationalism as easily as you can within Christendom, or certainly Protestantism, the non-Catholic Church in America, is because folks are biblically illiterate. So you can tell them, hey, Jesus Jesus was not empathetic. In fact, you shouldn't be either. It's actually sinful to be empathetic towards somebody else. It's toxic. It's absurd to those of us that are familiar with Jesus at all. But if you never read, you won't know who Jesus is. If all you get is these Christian nationalist pastors telling you what Jesus is like and how you should be, how you should treat women, how you should treat LGBTQ people, how you should treat people of color, like that, they'll tell you, we'll tell you how those things are based on the Bible, which of course it's not, but nobody reads. The first thing I heard that made me start the creation of this church was a guy, and I may have told some of this before, but a guy that said that he stopped going to his church after 40 years in a Lutheran church or something, Baptist maybe. He said he stopped going because the church stopped teaching the Bible. And I said, that's interesting, and what makes you think that? And we had a whole conversation about it, but part of that conversation was he said, nobody reads the Bible. And I was like, that's interesting. At that time, we were talking about non-Christians. I'm like, well, why would they read the Bible? And he said, no, Christians don't read the Bible. And I said, you think so? I said, well, what percentage of Christians do you think read the Bible? And he used the phrase, with any degree of regularity. And I remember that phrase. I remember the whole conversation like it was yesterday. It was 3 years ago in August, just over 3 years ago. And I said, what do you think? Maybe 20%, 30% read with any degree of regularity? And he said, I think 5%. And I didn't take his word for it. I asked people, which is an awkward thing to do, but it took me 2.5 years. Over the course of 2.5 years, I asked 127 church-going Christians if they read the Bible with any degree of regularity, and 5 of them said yes. 5 out of 127.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I don't say that like, oh, they're terrible. I usually phrase the question because you have to be careful how you ask that. It sounds very judgmental. I asked somebody that I knew, who I knew either worked with or I knew in my life. And I knew that they were Christians and I knew they went to church. I would ask them, do you read your Bible with any degree of regularity? And I would usually say I don't read as much as I'd like to either. It's not like I read 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours at night. So, but when you see that Christian nationalism is advancing, and you realize what you need for that to advance is a Christianity that has no familiarity with Christ.
Ryan, I wonder if that has anything to do with the reading level of our nation. You know how they say that the vast majority of our nation reads on a sixth grade reading level? I wonder if that has anything to do with the reason why people don't read their Bible. Because the Bible is very complicated. And
Yeah.
if you're not told what the Bible means, you're not given the history, the anthropology, and you're not telling them what the linguistics means. I mean, it's really like looking into like a whole nother world, and trying to piece it together. And a lot of the way that they structure the sermons nowadays is it's very topical. And they pick a few key verses, they have a few key points, but everything is pretty much spoon fed to you. It's all on the screen. Now they give you like little note cards with a little pen and you can take little notes or whatever. But, people really don't, they have it on their phones, but I mean, what's another app? You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like like how you have like another app on your phone. So I wonder. I know,
Bye, El Capitan.
I know for sure that there are there are different types of seminaries. Okay, you have your seminaries that teach the full breadth of the Bible, meaning they're teaching the history, the anthropology. You got people that, have sociology degrees and, that kind of thing, and they teach Bible from multiple perspectives. But then you have people that are basically just creating Calvinist franchises, So I wonder if, you know, there's def-
Brandy, as a non-believer, I think you're very spot on.
no.
I mean, one of the things I always say to people, say to people that I've talked to that are Christians, is I read the Bible. That's sort of why I'm not a Christian or a Jewish follower of it, is because I actually read the whole thing. multiple times and studied it and went to Greece and walked some of the roads that some of the apostles walked and went to, different places and things to try to understand it from a standpoint that is sort of outside of it. But the educational level is very much a big part of this. And when you do have something that comes from the Bronze Age, which is what the Old Testament comes from, and then you have the New Testament, which is closer to our time, 2,000 years ago. It's still 2,000 years ago. There are so many things that are overlooked and glossed over within Christianity to give that message that they want to do. And I think that's why y'all have 40 to 60,000 denominations, because everybody says, well, that's not the true Christians. And they say, well, we're going to decide what they are. And I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on about the educational things, because if people looked at it in a broader aspect with the sociological, anthropological, and archaeological things, and the context of it being from the Bronze Age itself, and all these different things that sort of get glossed over, there would be a different perspective on Christianity itself just because of that. And I think that's part of the reason that, the church, the Catholic Church, kept it that I mean, it was against the law for you to basically, you know, for a long time within the Catholic Church to even, you know, read the Bible. It was meant for the priests to do that for you, and they had their back to you when they were doing their mass and all that good stuff. And so we have
And they
a
did the same thing to slaves.
they with we if we talked about that, how they even changed how they changed it to fit the slave masters agenda, and the horrible things. I mean, even today, when you if you go to any of these deconstruction places, when they talk to people and they say, hey, your God, basically said it's okay to own slaves, and here's the verses. The Christians don't want to hear that, and they don't want to think about what was going on. They say, well, that was the way it was in those days, and you know, uh, they leave out. Well, this is supposed to be a deity that's all knowing. It doesn't sound like it was too all knowing if he thought that slavery was okay and give you rules to have your slaves by. At least in my mind.
That's historical, I've been deep diving on John Calvin, Roger Williams, and some of the people that stood up to the Puritans when they were shoving their religion on people. And it's very interesting to see how, especially Roger Williams was talking about the liberty of conscience. And I guess people haven't realized that over the years, at least since the 70s, that the decline of biblical lyricism has went down significantly, and part of me feels like it's been done politically on purpose. But that's just my opinion.
No, you're very apt in saying that, because it's a good measure of the ability to control the masses. The the less educated people are, the easier are to control. And when you have something like the Bible that can be twisted in so many different fashions, and you use that as a tool on top of that, it just becomes a weapon. And that's basically what has happened with the Christian nationalist thing and white supremacy in general, is that it's weaponized, and has been for, in my mind, 2,000 years plus. But that's from an outsider's view. I'm the one and sole outsider at this point, I think.
No, I hope you don't feel that way. But I want to see if Princess wants to say hello. Or are you
Yes,
just
I do. I wanted to say something behind that. Hi, Streaker. Fancy seeing you here, girl. But I just want to say, Earth, I am a Christian, but I also agree with what you're saying, because what draws people away from God, in my opinion, is those what do people call them? Bible thumpers.
Yep.
I can't stand them because they love to cherry pick the slave Bible is what I call it. You know what I mean? It's the same version of the Bible that they read to slaves to keep them in line. At the same time, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion because I feel like if you have an opinion about the Bible or about God or about any of that without doing any like of research, I tend to question your opinion on it. I would rather listen to your opinion about something that you research that I'm familiar with. You know what I mean? Like, do you know about the Apocrypha? Do you know about the original book of the Bible, the book of Esther? Um, like these are the things that I researched myself because a lot of the things that are demonized within Christianity was a part of the Apocrypha, which were the lost books in the Bible, the books that was taken out of the Bible. You know what I mean? Like a lot of things that Christians deem
Yeah.
as sins, that was a part of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Bible has
So
been edited enough, and people say that you can't change a iota word in the Bible, but it's been edited from
No,
well,
so when I
the
well,
was
The
I mean, well,
Ethiopian Bible has
to
88
that,
books, and there's what 66.
to that,
You
I would
know,
say this though.
so
I would say this to that part though, because a lot of people say that, and if I'm wrong, reconsider. You can correct me, but I'm just saying this from my standpoint because my mom is an evangelist herself, and so yes, there are a lot of different versions of the Bible, just like there's different versions of the Quran and other books and different religions. But there's different translations at the end of the day. Whatever you read, regardless of what version you read it in, it all means the same thing. Now, if you're talking about the books that have been taken out of the Bible, that's completely different. You're reading an entirely different book.
Princess, do you know how many? So when I was in Bible college, we were taught that it was 15, but lately I've been hearing that it was 18 books that were left out. Do you know how many it is?
No, I don't. I haven't even. I've read like
I know it's somewhere around
three.
in
I've
that
read like
number.
5 chapters in the Apocrypha. I'm still reading that book. I'm not even done with it yet. So, but I haven't like counted every single chapter.
I just wanted to add one note to that there. You know, in James it says that the Bible is a mirror, okay? So, and back then they didn't have, the crystal clear mirrors that we have now. They basically like had like ceramic or like pieces of like shiny glass, that kind of thing. And that's why the Bible said that you have to look intently. And the thing about it is that we have, when Christian nationalism, and this is just my opinion, I feel as if people like, Doug Wilson, even John Calvin, I feel like they looked in the Bible and they said, I'm right. Because
Oh,
because how else can you burn somebody? Because that's what John Calvin did. How else can you burn somebody at the stake for having a difference of theological opinion from you? How can you say that you get to run the nation unless you looked in the Bible and to you the Bible said that you have the right to rule? I think that a lot of people look in the Bible to see what they want to see, but they don't look intently enough to make sure that what they see is covered in Jesus's mark.
I
So,
agree, but that's what I mean when I say I think
man,
that people read the verse as what how it's printed in the Bible, but they don't actually research what that means. They don't research the original language and how different words were interpreted
I think
within
they
that
also
text.
read verses like that, Princess, and look to see how they can make it fit the narrative of their life.
I agree. I agree 100%. Like you know how like certain things wasn't added until after Jesus.
1949,
Yeah,
is
like
that what you're talking about?
yes, things like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? A lot of Christians don't know that because a lot of a lot of people in power within the church cherry pick and they read the same version of the Bible that they read to the slaves to keep their congregation in line. But
King James.
I will say this: I have Earth, and I know that you say you're not a believer. I will say this: even though I don't go to church anymore, that didn't.
1949.
No, what I'm saying is, even though I don't go to church anymore, that didn't stop my belief in God. That just made me more aware of who I trust, the type of humans that I trust, if that makes sense. I know that humans are flawed, so that didn't change my relationship with God at all.
Princess, can I ask you a question? You said your mom is she still in ministry as far as still working as an evangelist?
Yeah, from time to time. She doesn't have her own church and anything like that, but whenever she gets offers to preach, she does.
Does it bother her that you don't go to church, or is that not
No,
okay?
because she understands my why, and she barely goes anymore as well.
I would love to hear your why someday. It doesn't have to be now, though, if you're not up for it. Another time or in another, at some point. If you're up for it, I'd love to hear it.
Would you say that again? It was sort of lagging when I heard that.
My part?
Who was lacking Earth?
I just said I would love to hear that why. But if it's personal or you want to do it another time or you don't want to do it at all, I fully respect that. But
It is personal, but I respect you. I don't mind sharing that with you. It would have to be like 1-on-1 though.
yeah, absolutely, I get that. And I
Does anyone hear the lagging beside me?
No.
Just fine.
I didn't hear your full. I didn't hear your full comment.
Who, me? Who didn't you hear? Can somebody ask him who didn't he hear?
I think it's going in and out for you, Earth. You might want to try to go out and then come back in.
yeah, why don't you try that, or hop out and then request up and see if it fits.
Unfortunately, I cannot hear anybody.
Okay, read the comments.
Can I ask a couple administrative questions real quick? I can't comment, correct?
Yes,
What?
you can.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
How do you do that?
To make it easy for you, you
Just
can literally
down at the
just
very
I'm
bottom
so not hearing anything.
where it says type.
read the comments, Earth.
So Ryan,
Dang,
As a
not the
host,
bottom. How you have
he's
all of the
not going to
little.
see type, Streaker. He's not going to see type as a host.
No, I'm talking to Ryan.
Yeah,
I know. As a host, he's
So,
not going to see type.
that's what I mean.
okay, what is down there for him
So
then?
I was letting him know to make it easy on you. Just click on the last comment and then just erase the name, and you can type whatever you want to type. That's what I do. It's going to make it look like you're trying to respond to someone. Just erase the name if you want to, you know.
It won't even let me do that when I click on Brandy Mitchell. It just go out and come back in. I hope you saw that.
No,
Click
you have
on
to
the
actually
click
click
on
on
the
the
words that
comment,
she
not the
typed.
name.
Yeah, the comment, not the name.
No, even when I'm clicking on the comment, it still goes to Princess or to Brandy.
That's fine. If you're just trying to put in a comment, erase the name. It doesn't matter who you click on. Because you're not trying to respond to anyone. You're just trying to put a comment in there.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know. I'm probably doing something wrong, but no matter what I do, it just pulls up the. Oh,
You
reply.
just need mods, and
Yeah, I got it.
you
I
don't
got
even
it.
have
I
to
got
worry
it.
about that.
I had a question about a mod too. I saw Mr. Society modding on somebody else's, or not. He didn't even doing that. He would like come in and do commercials and stuff. It was pretty cool. Except,
I like our vibe here. A lot of the lives are just like debating, and the guys are really smug, but Ryan's really cool. He listens.
Okay, now I can hear everybody
Told you,
again.
Ricky.
Yay! He's
Everyone loves
back.
you. I told you.
I missed out on what Princess had said to me to begin with, and then I lost all the rest of the conversation until I outed.
Sorry. Okay, to make it short, I just said that I actually agree with you. I said the only thing that I would say is because my mom is an evangelist, I have a a different standpoint, right? Like I feel like everybody should have everybody have the right to their own opinion. But if you have an opinion about the Bible or about anything else without doing any research to back your opinion, I just feel like how much weight does that opinion hold? You know what I mean?
I studied to be a Christian minister, so I mean I do have a background within it when I was a Christian,
That's good.
and that is part of what led me away from it was actually reading the Bible multiple times and really getting down to the nitty gritty of how the history of it and so on and so forth. And I mean I went full hog. I mean went and studied some you know Hebrews and went to Greece and tried to learn Greek. Is very hard. And
Yes, it is.
I traveled to many of the places where I went to Patmos. I told them last night about my story of Patmos, where John wrote Revelations and things like that. So, I mean, I do have, I'm not a total outsider in that regards. I'm an outsider because of not believing. And I take this to all religions now because I guess I'm more agnostic-y, I guess, in my belief that religion has ruined so much of humanity's promise that we really need to sort of put it in a place of, hey, keep it to yourself and you're good. And that's fine. We don't need people out, knocking on doors or the street corners telling you you're going to hell if you don't submit to Jesus and things like that. There are other religions that should be respected, and even though I have studied many of them and have been part of many of them, I look at it from the standpoint of I look at people individually and say I can see. It's when you say namaste, I see the divinity within you, you know, and I don't care what religion or spirituality thing you follow, as long as you can recognize the divinity in me. But a lot of Christians do not recognize the divinity in me because I have, you know, been there. They're surprised that I know so much about the Bible, but at the same time they look at me and say, "Well, you're going to hell," and I look at them and say, "Well, I still recognize that you have this divine spark in you, and I hope that that divine spark can come out in a way that is very compassionate, empathetic, and loving towards your fellow human because I'm a human first."
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and I don't know if you heard this part, but I said that my mom is an evangelist as well, and what I was referring to was other people, that said that they left the church and they don't believe in God anymore, and they just left it at that. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I respect everybody's decision, and as far as religion, I don't like religion because God hated it. You know what I mean? And I also recognize that the parts of the Bible that the pastors preach from are just cherry picked. You know what I mean? And I like to call it the slave Bible, the slave version of the Bible. That's what they read. They cherry pick certain verses that kept the slaves in line. And I feel like that's what the Christian nationalists are doing now. I don't know if you recognize that, reconsider.
Oh yeah, we talked about that a bit before you got in there. We'll early on when I started this, or a few months ago, I said like everyone is welcome. I would love everyone to feel welcome at our church here. And I feel like every church says that, but they don't really mean it. And we talked about this a couple of nights ago. We had on two different occasions. I had a couple in the LGBTQ. I don't know what words you can say and what words you can't. Sidebar.
You could say LGBTQIA.
Okay. The Q. I have sometimes heard that term used in a way that felt like they were referring to the whole community. Have you ever heard that, Streak, or did I make that up?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like Um, so it's akin to the Black community taking back certain words that were, they still are used in a derogatory way towards them, but they've reclaimed it, right? It's
Yeah.
the same thing because the word queer was used in a very derogatory way towards the LGBTQIA for a long time. And even like, I won't use that word um, when I refer to other people. I'll say it about myself. Somebody will say, "Oh, you're just," and I'll go, "You damn straight I am." Like I have no problem with you calling me queer, buddy, because I am as queer as they come. I
I
don't know what else to tell you. So it's just that reclaiming of a
What is that? What
word.
is that we have to say? Because TikTok knocked me off when I said that about myself last time, Frankie.
I've
They,
never been thrown off for that word.
I
yeah,
love TikTok shop.
they banned me for like a week for saying it about myself, and
So
there were only like a
Are
couple
you
of people
sure
in
it
my
was for
life.
that word?
Yes.
so all I'm gonna say is if I
Oh my
get thrown off
gosh.
here for using that word, I have three other accounts. I'll be back.
We love TikTok shop. Is that what it was?
Yes.
We
Yes.
love TikTok shop.
Yeah.
Um,
Or oh, I'm sorry.
are you referring, the word that you're using is the Q in the
Uh-huh.
LGBTQ?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I'm proud of mine too there, Frankie.
Yeah, it must be a TikTok thing. So there's a couple other um, pastors who look a lot like me who are speaking out about in opposition of Christian nationalism. There's not enough of us, in my opinion, but there are. I have found a handful that are doing it, and I think doing it much better than their pastors. So they're way more articulate. They have tons of experience giving sermons and things like that, but they are speaking out. And I found them shortly after I started because to be quite honest, I was pretty content just doing my job as a hospice chaplain. This is not something I really want to do or love doing. It's more like I said, I feel a responsibility to speak out against Christian nationalism
No,
because
it's a gift. When you
because
don't
of
want to do it, it's a gift.
because of
Those of us who are deconstructing, I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it, but those of us that are deconstructing, we need a pastor that understands what we're going through. Like, I can probably tell you, like, this is probably like the most loneliest I've ever felt in a long time because it's hard to deconstruct everything that you know. And, for me, the first real feeling was the fact that I felt like I was like brainwashed by the evangelical church, especially as an African American. I felt like the thing that they were weaponizing against the nation, I was going along with it, and I don't know, I felt some type of way, and I sat with that feeling for a long time without really anybody to process it with. And then the first time that I heard my pastor that I go to church with now, the first time I heard him like preach something that sounded empire to me, like I had to literally walk out of the church. I went and sat in the back of the church and I just cried because I was like, how can you say that God will use our suffering, and use it for good? What do you say to the people of Gaza that are being killed? Like,
Thank you.
you know and then he happened to walk outside because he was going around to the front side of the church, and I was crying, and he was like, are you okay? And I was just like, I think what you're teaching, this is what I said. I feel bad that I said it now. I said, what I feel like you're teaching is complete bullshit.
Oh
Well,
no.
you should be proud of that, Brandy.
And I was crying, and I was expressing myself. And this is what made me so mad. He said to me, he said, it sounds like you don't believe the Bible anymore. And I just looked at him like, no, that's not it. Like, I still believe in this. This is why I'm still here. But I just can't go along with the game anymore. Like, that's what I was just, thinking in my brain. And, we sat down, we did talk to each other, and I tried to explain all the Christian nationalist stuff. And he just looked at me. He was like, the Bible isn't political. And
That's
I'm,
bull.
and I was like,
That's
Oh.
definite bullshit.
like, like I was so I that was the first time like I ever felt. I mean, I've been in between churches, but to feel unpastored, like, I, I was like, man, I believe in the ethics of Jesus, but I don't know if this is what I believe. You know,
Brandy, I hope you know that a lot of us are proud of you for that. And deconstructing is very hard, and it's something that you never end. I mean, if you end up like me, which is totally out of it, um, it's something that you never stop because we were brought up in it, and I hope the good things remained in me about Christianity.
right.
That's what I hope.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cry. I'm sorry.
No, no, bless you. It's
I've
okay.
been
It's okay.
I've been kind of holding it in, like
It's hard. It's very hard to deconstruct it and be at this point. And we're lucky to have people like Ryan that are going to listen to you. I mean, he's sitting here just listening to us ramble, but and we're not rambling, but you should be okay to say what you're feeling right now because it's hard to tell people on the other side how you're feeling because of what you're going through.
I mean,
And so
church just makes you feel like you're just this sinner and that you're trying to run away from him. And like I'm not, like I'm really like holding on to the bars as tight as I can as I go on this roller coaster.
can I
And
tell
it
you something that I tell people? They ask me why I'm not a Christian anymore, and I say, well, when I was, and I was studying so hard and doing all those things and really trying to follow, what I thought Jesus was teaching, I prayed not just because I was gay, and take the gay away, which I did when I was really young, but I was praying that Jesus would lead me to where I needed to be. And I tell people now, he led me out of Christianity. He led me to be the person I am today because that was the person I was praying to at that time. I mean, I don't pray to him anymore in that regards, but I do respect that moment when I was doing that in all earnestness, asking him to show me and lead me the way, and that I would follow what he offered to me. And it was a very freeing thing when it happened to me, but it took years.
right.
It took years.
And I admit that, I basically used the AI to deconstruct. I made sure that I set up all these ethical lenses, inside of the AI. I set my reading standards on, history, anthropology, all of that. And like, I started in April. It really took me 6 months to like, to, to take that white supremacist fog off, that patriarchic fog, you know. I call it an inversion. I feel like they taught us to read an inversion.
I have to be honest and say I have never understood why any African American actually stays Christian. I've never understood that. I mean, from an early age, I've never understood it because I knew what my people, did. I knew what they did, that how they treated and twisted the Bible to their, methods of slave
Right.
control and everything. I've never understood why anyone would have stayed in that. And a lot of people think that I left because of the being gay thing, and that wasn't the reality of it. The reality was that I read it and looked at that deity of the Old Testament and said, here's somebody, is this being really worthy of worship? Jesus is a little bit different because, he's presented different and we're given a totally, new way of thinking, and I think a lot of that came from the Eastern traditions, actually, that, he probably studied, which is the yogic things from India and things like that. A lot of people don't believe that, but that's fine. And I think that there's a lot more to this, what happened. Like last night, we got into it with the guy because I mentioned that, psychotropic things may have been used in some of the communions, and that's why I got called a blaspheming heretic, because his Catholic beliefs just couldn't handle that. And I was just throwing it out there. I wasn't trying to, you know, knock him off the live, but he just couldn't. And he never. Ryan, just for you to know, I sent you a little bit of taste of what I was talking about, but JL never did what he said he was going to do, which was contact me privately and say anything, and that's fine. But
He
to me,
messaged
that
he messaged me and said, "Hey, we could meet you next time. I want to talk about John 6." And I'll be honest with you,
he
I'm
wanted
not
to talk about what I didn't hear that.
John
John
6.
chapter 6. And when I got that message, it was the next morning because we were up later than I had, and which is happening more now. Um, but we were up late, and then the next morning I saw a message. It was good to talk to you last night. Next, I'd like to talk with you about John 6. Period. And I saw that message, and I was like, that nothing sounds worse. And I don't. It's not because I'm not familiar with it or I don't enjoy the discussion. It's just I am. Uh, one of my many flaws is that I give people the benefit of the doubt way past when other people would. Like you, I think you and Streak realized within 30 seconds that that was not going to go well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I've seen this with Princess too. In some of her lives, somebody will come up and she can sort of tell within 30 seconds this isn't going to go anywhere, or let's just ask this and be done with it. I am like, hey, let's let JL like share what he's going to share and get his point across and try to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I saw the message in this morning, and I was like, that conversation doesn't sound appealing to me. And then I looked at a few of his the videos, and they are like hostile, and they're like angry in nature. And I'm not going to do
Oh.
it. Like, I don't have any desire to like I will address Christian nationalism. I have already a whole bunch, and I will continue to a whole bunch more in the future. So I'm not opposed to like confrontation or calling out something that I think is a problem. But I don't have a desire to like you and I spend an hour battling about transubstantiation, like whether or not the Eucharist is symbolic or literal, or to what extent is it literal. Like that, there was a time in my life where I was like, let's do it, let's get after it and talk about deep, deep, deep theological issues and argue them for hours on end, and that would be fun. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't think this time calls for that. And it's not that, and I could be wrong about that. I'm not opposed, but I went on. Brandy and I were on a live a little earlier today, and it was like 4 or 5 guys who look like me, but 20 years younger. They look like they're all 23 years old. And in the background, like I have in my background, but it didn't fit in his background. Half the words were cut off, which I can understand now because it happens to me, and every time I do it, and even my thing now is right in the middle of the screen, and I can't fix it. So I don't judge it for it cut off, but it was cut off, and it was like, am Christian, and then you couldn't see anything else. So all you could see on the screen was am Christian. And I got on, and it's just straight hate, constant. I watched for 10 minutes, just spewing vile with Bible verses everywhere, but it was so angry and so hostile. And somebody asked a question like, "Have you thought about the fruits of your doctrine?" It may have been Brandon. It may have been somebody else.
It was me.
Yeah, you said, "Have you given any thought to the fruits of your doctrine?" Which I understood what you meant right away, and we both already knew the answer. Like the answer is no. No, they have not given any thought to the fruit of their doctrine. But I listened for a while, and then you were um, out, or I had to leave, or you were out after that, and I tried to connect with you afterward to discuss that interaction, and then I went to go back.
I got booted.
Good for you. That's a badge of honor.
I'm not crying anymore, guys.
Yeah, I don't think even if you had gotten booted, I don't know that that would have gone anywhere. Because a couple minutes later, I went back in after I found him and you sent kind of what it was. I went back in just to see if I could maybe try to say, hey, pause for a second and think about what Brandy just asked you. That was my plan. Like, have you given that thought? Have you given any thought to what you are doing to the gospel and how much damage, like how all of this, and so I didn't get back. I didn't have the energy or any desire to go back on or to try to go on the panel.
Hmm.
Wait, they were saying that about you?
No, not
No,
me. I was
so so I hopped on. I was waiting my turn. Before I got in, there was it was a guy. I think he was a black Hebrew Israelite person, and so they were trying to get him to say it, but they were going back and forth over scriptures, and so I finally just typed next, and I hopped on, and I just asked one simple thing. I said, have you considered the fruit of your doctrines? And then Gabe was like, what do you mean? That's how he said it. Just like, what do you mean? And I was like, the real world consequences of the things that you teach. And then he was like, oh, well, you're going to have to give me an example. And I was like, okay. I said, homosexuality is a sin. And so he immediately got defensive. He was like, well, what do you mean by that? I was like, well, we have suicide studies,
Ooh, I don't think you can say that on TikTok.
oh
oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. What can I not say? I'm sorry.
Shmula
Y-
side.
Yeah, say
Oh, I'm
aside.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I
You
haven't
love
done this.
TikTok shop.
I haven't done this a lot. I'm sorry. Um, the S word. And also, schmate schmeech, crimes, that kind of thing.
You can say hate
You can
speech.
say hate
Okay, thank you.
speech.
I don't know what I can say.
Words that are harmful, you can't say.
Oh, heartworms that are harmful. So I was saying, hate speech, hate crimes, abandonment, exile from your church. And he immediately cuts me off. And he was basically saying to the effect that I can't say that Christianity is the reason for those things because other religions say, because other religions believe that too. And I was trying to say that that I was like, okay, you're just kind of gaslighting me at this point. Like we know for a fact that we are hurting people, and people know that, they know it. And I wanted to go deeper, but he was like, well, what studies? What studies? And I was like, I'm in my car and I'm on my phone. I can't pull up the studies. And then he just kept going, and he was like, you can't say that about us. Then he bumped me off.
Yeah, it was during that window, and then we'll get to somebody new. But it was during that window that I was listening, I was going to request up, or I think I pressed to request up because he had this look on his face when she was like, "Have you considered the fruit of your doctrines?" He was just like, "What do you mean?" Like this, like she's the idiot. And I was like, that's a really good question for this panel. And I was like, I want to get up and try to ask. I was gonna word it the exact same way that you did, just to try to get on track. But I could
Say
have the energy.
say it to everybody. The
Yeah,
next time you have any conversations with people, say, "What are the fruit of your doctrines?" And bring up sociology, bring up psychology, bring up science, and make them answer. I'm gonna tell you one
Oh,
thing. It's
baby, they don't believe in science.
yeah. I
listen,
don't.
they hate that conversation.
Of
Yeah,
They
course.
they
they
hated.
don't like it.
I could tell the guys were not having fun at all. And there was the group had shrunk. I went back 10 minutes later. Went back in. There was only like three on the panel and three openings, and the host, and they were just screaming at each other and with so much. I don't even remember the issue. I think it was baptism. I think they were talking about something related to baptism, how that should look for pedo-Baptist or Anabaptist. All stuff that I used to love to debate, and I'm fairly knowledgeable on those things. There's nothing sounds worse to me than to get in there. I'm like, we are missing the only thing that matters. And so I made the comments. I was like, if you are going to spew this much hate, can you take that big Christian thing off of your? But I know they've become synonymous. But the irony of looking at it, all it said was "am Christian." It was cut off, and then there was these four people with just the most hate I've heard since I've been on this app.
Ooh, you haven't been on here long enough. We
I
can
know.
see it. It's oh, I just wanted to respond to her real quick, and then I don't have to drop because I have to get ready for my own stuff. But I just wanted to say because he mentioned he doesn't understand how Black people are still Christian, and you know what? I can understand where you're coming from. My response to that is just like Streaker was explaining about the word queer, right? We take certain words that are used against us and we turn it around for something else the way that we want it to mean for us. You know what I mean? And so even though we know that a lot of our beliefs originated where we came from, where we were stolen from, and even though a lot of my ancestors didn't know how to read, they could only depend on what was read to them. However, they fought through it and they learned how to read themselves and they turned what was used against them to good. But
Mm-hmm.
within the Black community, not going to speak for myself and my family and my culture.
I'll speak up after you
As far as
finish.
as far as
I want to give I am
Oh,
a
go
chance.
ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
yeah, so as far as what my culture and how we believe in it is faith it coincides with culture. And a lot of things are taught in the home that you will not get from church. And so when you say you don't understand how Black people are still in Christianity, I do understand where you're coming from. However, if you are not in the community and if you don't come from the type of culture that we come from, I don't blame you for not understanding.
Yes, yes. That was
I,
very well said.
I have to admit, Princess, you're very spot on, and maybe I'm not being as clear as I should be. Um, that I myself, as a young person, I love going to the. My girlfriend was African American, and I love going to her church because it lasted all day. It was like so cool. The music and the food afterwards was just on par, and the love that I felt there was very different from what I felt within a white church because it was very active. And so,
Like performative?
no, not, I mean, active in that you
Oh,
could
I
see.
thought you were talking
You,
about the white church. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, I'm talking about how it was very palatable and you could feel it, for the people that really did believe what they were, talking about with Jesus and everything. It was something that you really, really did feel. Mine comes, I mean, I don't understand why anybody honestly is still in the religion because I think religion is so harmful. I think we ought to step back a minute and rethink our whole history as humans and sort of, take a breath. But I do recognize the good in all religions. So I'm a little bit different in that respect as far as being a deconstructed person that, looks at it. I'm not totally antagonistic to it, even if I sound that way. Um, I do think that there's a lot of good because there's people like Ryan and everybody on this panel that are, trying. And I know I am Tom. He's a good man, and I appreciate, being able to converse with y'all because a lot of times I'm not able to converse with Christians just because of the hatred towards the gay community or the hatred towards the non-Christian community itself is so harsh, and I don't understand that. I mean, I'm too compassionate. I'm, in a lot of ways very Buddhist in that regards. But
Neither do I, Earth. I think that's the reason why I love Reconsider so much, because we are very like-minded in regards to our beliefs and our faith. And he doesn't look like me, but at the same time, we kind of share the same heart when it comes to stuff like this.
right,
Um, Streaker can tell you, like, I don't judge anybody. You know what I'm saying? I don't judge people for their lifestyles. Most people don't even know that I'm Christian unless the
I
conversation
think
comes
I
up.
think I've sat in one of your lives before as a lurker, and I think I've heard you speak before, so I recognize that.
Oh,
Um,
okay, yeah. So I just wanted to say that, at the end of the day, I think that everybody deserves love. I think that every human being deserves to live their life how they want to live it. I I truly believe that God wanted us to choose him. It is a choice. That's the reason why I will always say that God was pro choice. He is pro choice at the end of the day. He literally
Thank
said
you
that
for that.
multiple
Thank
times.
you.
Okay. And I truly believe that God judges us by our spirit and our works and not by um
Faith alone.
and by our hearts, right? So at the end of
Correct.
the day, these white Christian nationalists or whatever Christian nationalists, they think they're going to heaven. That's the reason why God said that He judges our what? Our hearts, not what we say out of our mouths. He judges our hearts. You never know who's going to heaven. You never know. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why I would never say, "Oh, you're going to hell." I would never. You would never hear me say that out of my mouth. But I just want to say before I drop, reconsider. Thank you so much for having me up. I am so proud of you. You're
Thank
doing
you,
so
Princess.
well
I
Thank
got
with
you,
you.
going
Princess.
live.
Princess, can I ask one quick question before you go?
Yeah.
I had a question before that maybe I missed the answer. With the LGBTQIA community, I have heard some people refer to them as just the Q word for the whole community, and I don't know if there was a question mark of whether or not that's an okay word on TikTok. Do you know?
Are you asking like from a black perspective? Because I'm not in that community.
No, no. I know. I'm sorry. I know you. Oh, I know
No,
you're
you're
not.
fine. If you're asking about from a black perspective, I can give you that perspective.
No, no. I'm asking just as far as TikTok regulations. Can you say the Q word
Yes.
on
I
TikTok?
mean, from just like Stricker said, from what I know, you can say it. But I would say this: since you don't have many followers, um, people like me and you that don't have too many, like a lot of followers, we get shut down faster than someone with 50,000 followers.
That's true.
So because Earth got banned before, I would just be cautious with that word.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I can
And
rock with
I'll
that.
see you. I'll see you later if I get. So for now, Princess, if I get a second wind, I'll join you wherever you are.
All right.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
It's good to meet you, Earth.
To meet you,
I'll
you know,
see you. I'll see you around, Stricker.
see
You
each
already
other.
know.
Yep,
Of course.
we are already get connected.
All right. It's good to meet you too, Brandy. I am time. I'm sorry. I'll get to know you a little bit later or a different time, but y'all have a good night, okay?
You too.
You too.
All right.
I can't read as well. I need glasses. IMTI. How
I
you
am
doing?
time.
I am time.
I am time.
You can call me Roger. That's my actual name.
Roger, how you doing, my neighbor?
How you doing? How you doing, Scott? How you
It's
doing? It's
good to
been a
see
minute.
you. It's good to see you again.
It's been a hot minute, brother. I hope you've been well.
Well, it's been off and on, but I appreciate it, and I've seen your lives a couple times and sort of lurked on them too, and I haven't been doing lives for a while, sort of, and um, I hopped on here because Ryan seemed to be a very open-minded person, and um, you know. But
Hmm.
anyway, Ty, Ty, Roger is a good person, y'all. He's a good man.
Welcome, Roger.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you.
What made you want to come up, or just out of curiosity to see Earth?
I had a little curiosity. I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on here with the lab. Are you trying to create a certain space, or you, what is your goal here? If you don't mind me asking, of course.
No, it's a great question. Yeah, I welcome the question. I've got to figure out because I get that question pretty often, or at least I have in the last 2 weeks of trying to do social media. Um, and I need to figure a succinct answer. I thought we're a church for people who left church, was the best I could come up with. But we felt the need to create a church for people who have left church for a whole bunch of different reasons. And that's what we're trying to do. And we came up with this church. So there's no buildings. It's not coming to a city near you soon. It'll only be on here, and we'll only do three things. I mentioned last night. I think atheists would love the church, maybe more than Christian, certainly more than Christian nationalists, but more than a lot of Christians. So all we do is read a book of the Bible together each month, pray for each other as we do it, and then do something to help the poor. That's the whole of the church. We don't take money. There's no way to give to, hey, can you please send me $10 or $100 so I can bless somebody else? It's just, if you're interested in trying it, you would do that yourself. You go find someone, and it could be something totally different than what I'm doing with my family. And I would actually like to hear if somebody does other things. I know that people go to soup kitchens or take money to or food to people who would need it. So it's not rigid. It's do whatever you want to help people in need. Like Earth mentioned before, I don't know how long you've been in I am time, but Earth, if I could ask, you said that years back you used to pack those like winter bags of necessities, right?
Right.
Who was that with? Just out of curiosity. Oh, not, you don't have to name a church, but was that a church thing, or you said it was a group?
It's well, it's the Misfit Witch Sanctuary, which is a local thing that I was involved with, and I'm a elder in that. And I've even pulled away from it for varying reasons, not because I don't really like the people anymore, but more because I was, on a different little path here for a while, and what I'm doing with my own self. And I'm still connected to them, but it was a pagan organization that was very eclectic, and we had Buddhists and atheists and a little bit of everybody, but it was founded in, it was a bunch of witches, local, witches. And the funny thing about it was that when we were doing that, I was out and I did canvass some people to maybe see if they wanted to offer something for us to help pay for some of the expenses that we were doing to do this. And one lady was actually Catholic, and she came to me and she gave me over $200 for us to use. And she said, "You're doing more than my own church does." And I was really sort of floored and, happy to hear that, because, we were doing it because most of us were just poor as dogs anyway. And, we're all scraping by paycheck to paycheck. And a lot of us had experienced homelessness, and so we had been, many of us had been there, and it was a way for us, since we were in a better position, to help the local community of people that are without houses, and that are living on the streets and things like that. And we didn't care. I mean, we knew that many of them were addicts and alcoholics, and a lot of people say, well, he's just going to go, and if you give them money, they're just going to go and buy liquor and drugs. And I'm like, that's not the point of giving to help people. It's like, you give it to them in the hopes that they will get to a better place. And that was our main mission, especially in the cold weather. It was really focused on the winter weather times when we felt that it was the most needed, for people to have a warm sleeping bag if they were on the streets, and, some hygiene things. And it was just most of the time we ended up collecting, or, couple $1,000 between us all. It was just our group was less than 50 people. And, we basically would, pull all our funds to aim to do that every winter. And it still is going on. It happens every winter. And it was our small way of doing something, because we really have this thing in our hearts about people that are struggling, and there's so many people out there. And our group was a very hands-on, go help your neighbor type group, even though we're a bunch of pagan witches and everything. And
I
you
think
know,
that Jesus would love your organization when you talk about kind of what it is you were doing and why. Like, we just wanted to help people in need. I'm like, that sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard that before. I feel like maybe we're supposed to do that. But that's why, I mean, when I first said last night, I think atheists may like the church more than Christians. You know what, I get agnostic and atheist patients often. It's a little less common where I am now than where I worked up in the Chicagoland area. That was more diverse religiously and ethnically and in every other way. But here it still happens. I get like agnostic patients, and most of them will decline a chaplain visit. Like when someone comes onto hospice, this is a sidebar, but when someone comes onto hospice services, I have 5 days to see them to do my initial assessment. And the admitting nurse usually tells them that, like, you're going to meet the social worker and the chaplain sometime in the next 5 days. And every now and then, if there's an atheist patient or sometimes a Jehovah's Witness patient or somebody will be like, we do not want chaplain visits. When it's an agnostic or an atheist patient and they decline chaplain visits, I fully respect and it's not like I'm going to hound them to have me go. It does sometimes bum me out only if they declined me because they thought I would be something that I am not going to be, which I think most people would do. Like, I think, like, I understand why they're like, yeah, a chaplain from a Christian hospice company, no, thank you. And then I'm usually a little bummed out. I'll rely on the managing nurse. Be like, is there any chance you could get my foot in the door? Not because I have a conversion to make here, but just because I think they declined me because they have an idea in their mind of what I'm going to be, and I don't think I am that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, I got you, Ryan," and they kind of know, and they're like, "Hey, I think you should let Ryan come just one time just to introduce himself." And if they agree to that, then usually we end up having a conversation like this, and it's sort of like, "Can you come back again in a week?" And I'm like, "Yes, that's great." And at no point in my role with them do I feel the need like, oh, now is the time to convince them to believe what I believe. That's not my job. I could have lost my job in Chicago if I did that because it was a giant corporation. It was not a faith-based organization. So it never crossed my mind when I would get a Muslim patient that, hey, I gotta have a discussion with them about theology. Like they would call the office and be like, why is he pushing his beliefs on us at this time in our lives? And I would lose my job, which I appreciated that. But now it's so I would always respect people's wishes. But when they decline chaplain visits because they think I'm going to go in and be what they imagine, that bums me out. I don't know if that makes sense, but uh,
really makes sense.
yeah, I am time. I wanted to give you. I don't know if I answered your question. I had another question for Brandy, but I don't know if I answered your question well enough. Or what other questions do you have? There's no building. There's no money. There's no.
Ryan, is that correct? Right, Ryan, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it all right if I address you as Ryan?
Perfect.
Yes, you did. I got a fairly good understanding of what you're trying to accomplish here, and I hope it much success as it can possibly receive.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that, Roger. Right? I think I got that right. I really appreciate you coming up.
Whenever you get done, if you want to hear a little bit about me, I don't mind sharing because I'm an open book pretty much, and I definitely don't want to say something on your platform that maybe you wouldn't want shared on your platform. And if I share a little bit about who I am and what I'm about, you could understand whether or not you would want me on your platform or not.
I appreciate that. I think there are some words you're not allowed to say on TikTok. That's the only thing that I would be concerned about. I can't imagine a scenario where I'd be like, I'm not comfortable with you being up here. That's not
Okay.
true. The people that were with Brandy, I thought about, do I need to spend my time going into their lives? And then I want to hear from you, Roger, if you don't mind. Um,
Do you want Brandon to go first? I don't mind waiting. I'm a patient guy.
yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I appreciate that, Roger. Brandy, I gave some thought, or anybody, to this group of the young guys that had Christian in their
Mhm.
bio, and we're having this just hate-filled argument about everything. And I put a couple comments, and I'm like, do you realize how hateful this live sounds? And are you good with that? Are you good with it, a live that's this hateful with a big old Christian in the background? Like, I know it's stereotypical now. I saw this doctor that I love that said you could you could collect data from people who have Bible verses in their bio and crosses, and then you go into their comments and they're just vile and awful. And I was like, should I confront these young guys? And I was just like, I don't know that that's my calling here, like to go from live to live and try to undo Charlie Kirk's work. Does that make sense?
Right.
Um, and then I was like, I don't even know how I would feel about them. Like if somebody came up here and was just like, "You're so full of it, Ryan. You got everything wrong, and this is the reason you got to believe this." I'm just like, okay, like I'm qualified to have the conversation, but not with people who are unwilling to have a conversation. So I don't really know how this will unfold for me as far as like what my role will be on TikTok. But I have most of the videos and most of the stuff that I'm doing is on Instagram. But I can't go live on Instagram because I don't have 1,000 followers.
Oh, okay.
So I figured out how to go live. I got enough subscribers on YouTube, and it took me a long time to get there. You got to get 50 subscribers on YouTube. I got to 50, and I was like, hooray! And then I figured out how to go live, and I can't figure out. There's like a lock on it. I can't download the audio or the video and put it onto like Spotify and Apple Podcasts because I'm trying to get it like to all those. That was my cousin's recommendation. He said get them on get it on as many platforms as you can because that increases your reach. So I've posted the videos; they're all on Instagram. All my interactions are on Instagram, but I also post them on TikTok. But I haven't really gotten any. I had one person that was here, Teresa. One person that has been following me from the beginning of TikTok that reads the book of the Bible each month and gives like kind words and feedback and says, "I'm praying for you." It's so sweet. But she's been like an original with me from the beginning on TikTok. So I was like, I got to post them on TikTok too because I don't want to make Teresa come to Instagram, and I don't want to leave Teresa in the dust because I focus on Instagram. And then it just so happened that I had to go via TikTok because it's the only place that I can go live, and I've enjoyed it.
I think it's a better platform. I think that I don't know. I'm like I'm not anti meta, but I don't know. After the election, I just was really uncomfortable with them for some reason.
I don't blame you. I mean, I don't know that it's like you do a deep dig into TikTok if it looks any better.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so Brandy, if you don't
Okay.
mind, or Streaker, or if you could help me um, think through what would be best for me here. Um, if it's going on to those guys' lives, and I can do it, and be like, what you're doing is so hateful, and you're doing it in the name of
Don't do it, Ryan.
don't do it.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't do
Oh
it.
my gosh.
I I only debate when I can put all the sources in front of their face.
Right. Right.
I think when you're on those lives, it's like ugh, everybody's talking over each other, everybody's yelling, and then people can just be smug and I was in college and I hated that. When I was at North Greenville University, I hated that crap in person. I just don't want to submit my I mean, I listen to some of them sometimes, but I rather go on threads and have conversations with people
Mm-hmm.
and I can list, all of the data, I can listen all the links, that way they know I'm not just out here just shooting at the like no, I know what I'm talking about and this is what it says. You don't have to believe what I say, but don't act like I'm stupid. And
And
they treat progressives, they treat progressive theologians and those that have, like, I read like liberation theory or liberation theology. But I have a strong handle on systematic theology. I know the tulip, I know all of that, and I rather read the way that the Jewish people did. You know, the midrash, that contextual reading, that I'd rather read that way. And my thing is they say that their way is the way, but here's the thing: your way held up 400 plus years of slavery. Martin Luther King went to battle with y'all for 10 years and was able to crack your theology with his. I'm going with MLK,
Exactly.
you know, and when I tell people that, they get real offended, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but your theology, if whether you secularize or whether it's religious, it is oppressive, and they don't like to hear that. But
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to the point now where the proof is in the pudding. Y'all are trying to take over the government.
Exactly.
like you
That's
doing
about as
Exactly.
bare bones as it gets,
that's
isn't it?
it.
Yeah.
It's
Yep. Preach
and
it. Preach it.
and
And
and it goes back to what I was talking with Earth, what you asked earlier. The reason why black people hold on to the number one, because it got us through slavery. That's one. Two, we saw Jesus in action through Martin Luther King. He literally lived what Jesus went through in the Bible. And
that's why
they right.
they unalived him.
And they assassinated him for it. And to us, and there are books out here that talk about this, about Martin Luther King being the black people's Messiah. I'm not saying that he was the Messiah, but the similarities is there. And Rob, I saw what you just said there. No, move on. It doesn't matter. Even if he did cheat on his wife, the fact that he gave his life for civil rights, sir, you can move on.
Well, they don't like it when you have something that would override a lot of their cuts on you, and
Right.
you know, basically it's the fruit. Like what Ryan was saying is that if we're looking at people from that standpoint of the fruits that they are producing, I mean that's the real thing. Looking at you've got a tree and it's giving you fruit. Is it giving you some good fruit or is it giving you rotten apples?
Right, right. And
And
Oh,
they said they will know you by your fruits. And I'm sorry, the proof
can
was
I?
in MLK's pudding.
no, I
I
would
agree
agree.
with
I
you.
would
One,
agree with that.
can I say something really fast? I'm
Yes.
gonna listen. I'm gonna take a hard left. It's gonna be political, and then I'll come back to center. I promise you.
Okay.
This person, Rob down here, he said he cheated on his wife like 7 times. Sir, if you are the person that I think you are in this moment, you voted for someone who cheated on his wife 3 times and is a 34-time convicted felon. Don't
Mm-hmm.
try us.
I would argue like 103 times, but
The sad thing is that we're sitting here trying to have a conversation, and people want
you
to
have my crystal ball.
derail anything that we say, no matter what. And
Right.
you know, we're having a good conversation,
Good vibes.
and
Good
yeah,
vibes.
I think
Figure
that
out.
we're open. I mean, if Rob wants to come up and have a decent conversation, come on up, Rob. We'll definitely give you a try. But like
Stricker.
last
Are you
night.
speaking for the entire group in this
No,
moment,
no, I'm
sir?
not. I'm just saying that. Well, that would be up to Ryan.
Like
But what
I don't know
but
if I feel the
This
same.
goes back.
well, I really don't either. I'm just being nice. But it was like last night. I really tried with that guy to, just have a conversation. And he got so bent out of shape with me, calling me a blasphemer and a heretic and everything else, just because what I had stated, which is not a normal, thing to say to Christians. And it wasn't who I totally am. And I take the badge of honor of being a heretic, so that didn't bother me at all. And, but the real point was that I couldn't have a conversation with him. And then he said, "Well, I will I will PM you and I'll talk to you about it there. And then I waited and waited and he didn't. And I had,
I think he was talking to Ryan when he said that, or I don't think he was telling
oh,
you he was going to message you.
oh, I feel left out. Ha ha.
Oh,
You know, like
I learned a lot. I learn a lot every time I come on here, and I think that's like a conscious decision on my part, or maybe I feel like a lot of people come on to inform other, to teach or to lecture or to tell you something. I've tried from the beginning, like to come on and just listen. It's what I'm better at anyway. That's what I do professionally. I sit with people and let them kind of share what they're going through and how they're doing and what they've been through and all about their lives. And so I enjoy learning about other people. But like I said, I do give the benefit of the doubt. You, Earth and Streak could tell like this is not like, let's wrap this up. And even JL could tell. He was like, I'm out of here. I got to go. This is not, this is like, he recognized pretty early on, as soon as the temperature went up a little bit, he's like, I got to bounce. And but then it was too hard for him. He still felt like he had to get a few more words and a few more sentences. And there was part of me that was like, if there's any way I could get him to just talk to me, just he and the two of us for 10 minutes, and to be like, do you realize the fruit of your doctrines? Do you see what you just did there, and how unchristlike it is? And I think you guys recognize that that's never going to get through to him. Like there are people who are not going to be receptive, and I have
I think it was,
better
I think it was
discerning.
Brandy that said it earlier about the uneducatedness. And he was educated enough that, he could quote that dogma and,
oh, I think
ideology
he
of
was
the
very
church.
educated when it came to the Bible, but
Well,
but
of
that
the
was it. Like
church, of the church
he
dogma.
knew right that part of it. But he wasn't intelligent enough to say, okay, let me step back and listen.
Well, and
Right?
that my point was, hey, there are historical things that we need to take in consideration. And when I talk to any Christians, that's basically what I, try to get them to say is like, I'm not going to have a scripture war with you because y'all do that yourselves and, off each other, enough with that. I'm not going to get involved. But what I wanted to do was to say, hey, historically, there are things that, play upon the Christianity that has evolved through 2,000 years, and we have what we have, and it is not the same. You can't say that the whole thing about well, the church was founded on this and that, and I mean, personally, if I was still a Christian, I would be a Christian that would wipe Paul totally from the New Testament, you know, because I think he is a horrendous human that really ruined Christianity in a lot of ways. And, but that's not my place anymore. I'm not a Christian. I'm only giving the perspective from outside for somebody that really still wants to treat Christians like they're humans. I'm not going to treat you, differently because, like I said earlier, it's that word namaste where I see the divinity in you. Hopefully, you can see the divinity in me. And I asked a Christian one time that he had went to Jerusalem and had the Jerusalem complex where, he thought he was the savior or whatever. And I said, do you see, Jesus in your friend Becky? And he said, oh yeah. And I said, in her husband? He said, oh yeah. And I said, in me? Oh no, he didn't see it in me.
wow.
And the girl who knew me very well was very shocked because she was Christian. She was really Christian. And she was so shocked that he would, be able to say something like that. But it goes back to basically what we're talking about is that Christianity in so many forms has been warped into this hateful thing that, I mean, we had that politician not too long ago that basically said about what's going on in Palestine, hey, do them all, you know? And I was like, you call yourself a Christian? And, they do. They think that they're still Christian but they were calling for the, you know,
I think
G side of children. I mean, that's all it amounts to, and
right.
that's horrendous. I mean, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
homosexual with no children, but I look at that and think that's the most horrendous thing. Why? How could you treat a child that way?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't understand that.
Right. And
So Rob,
I
can I tell?
oh
Oh,
go
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to tell Rob something.
Mm,
Um, I know that you know a very small snippet of my story, right? Um, and I'm not closed off as far as what my story is. So if you ever want to talk about that, we can. Um, but I will tell you this, that since I left the church, and it's been 30 some odd years ago, 34, yeah, about 34 years ago, um, I have refused to have a Bible in my home.
mm,
And I've been I've been really angry um, at God and at Christians both. Um, Now the flip side of that coin is that I have struggled every day with the decision that I made. Right?
mm,
Like I mean, I've struggled with it um, because I don't know if I made the right decision. I don't know if I didn't. I don't know. Like I want to know that this is where I stand, but then there are days that I actually find myself calling on God, and I'm like, wait, did I just do that?
mm,
Okay, so do I like do I really have my feet planted as firmly as I thought I wanted them to be planted in being agnostic? I don't know. And you're the first person that I've met in 34 years that has made me comfortable enough to have real, real conversations
mm,
about Christianity and religion.
Mm.
I just
mm.
wanted you to know that.
Yeah, it's hard for me not to be emotional if I'm being honest with you. I know that sounds
Oh.
I'm sorry.
no. This project is important to me, as goofy as it is. You can see it's goofy because my sign is backwards. I can't even figure out how to. Like I
You have to
obviously,
write it on the paper backwards.
I know. I have to. Um, I felt like, all right, let's make this official. I knew when I started that there would be a time that I could do like 60-second videos for a long time, which is what I did on Instagram since November. And then I knew we would get to a point where we would talk about each one of these cards. And when I talk about a lot of the cards, I can do it all in a 60-second clip because there's not a whole lot to them. Like one of the reasons that people gave was that life got too busy, and that's why they stopped
Oh,
going to church. One of the reasons, the number three reason, was I don't know. Like I would ask them what's your religious background, and they said I stopped going to church 30 years ago, and I would say, what made you stop going? And they would say, I don't know. And I didn't dig, I didn't pry any further to be like, no, there's got to be a reason. Give me something. I just said, okay, in my head, okay, and like chalked up, I don't know. And there was like 33 people that gave that as their answer. But I can talk about I don't know for 60 seconds. I cannot talk about the LGBTQ issue in 60 seconds. I can't do that in a
mhm.
60-second clip. And so I knew I will have to do some sort of longer discussion. And at first I tried it on YouTube and I just recorded myself basically. It's like a voice recording of me talking for 50 minutes about some of these issues because that's as fast as I could cover it. Um, But what you just said is it was I was fighting tears because we started this project. I started this project the day that my mom passed. which is
Hmm.
November 18th of 2024. And if you go over on Instagram, one of the first posts that I had is a screenshot of my account information, which on the bottom of it says account created November 18th, 2024. And that was significant to me. I was with my mom. That's why we moved here. So it was a long journey, a journey that I moved here to help with because I know this stuff. I'm familiar with end of life stuff just from work. So we moved down here for that reason. And I had been for 2.5 years working on this project. And I knew I was sort of done in like October, or I was ready to go. And then things turned a lot with my mom. And I went on the back burner for 3 or 4 weeks, which was the right thing. But the day she passed, I came home. I hadn't slept in 8 days or whatever, but I came home and all I did was hit create. I had it all queued up and I was kind of waiting for that. We knew the day was coming. As soon as you go NPO, which is like nothing by mouth, no food and no
Yep.
water, that's that gives you a good idea of nearing the end and gives you kind of a timeline. So I started it on November 18th. And the reason that I did it kind of as a tribute to her is because she loved people so well. And if you happened to cross paths with her or have coffee with her, you would have walked in as a stranger, but you would have left an hour later feeling loved, like anybody. And that is what I was like, that's what I want to try to emulate is that if you were hurting, she would comfort you. If you were grieving, she would kind of lift you up. She would, whatever the case may be, she was just as loving a person as it gets. And so I launched this sort of as let's try, and it's morphed, right? It's like, let's try to just love people well with this project. That's how I could carry the torch that mom handed to me in November. And when you say that, what you said, I've heard that said of my mom
Oh,
so many times, like, hey, well, I went through this or I went through that, and your mom was just there and listened and loved, and um, that will always be the goal. That's why I'm struggling with, like, if one of the guys from the panel that Brandy and I were on before, if one of them came up here, yes, I will engage. I just don't know why or to what extent or for how long, or I want it to be useful.
What I
Brandy,
what I was gonna say is, and you've been to school and you know how these guys are. For them, it's not about getting to truth. For them, it's about their egos. You
right.
know, this is, in their ways, they're their own little miniature kingdoms, if you think about it. Especially a lot of these pastors and stuff, you know, and they rule with their theology and what they think is right. And they sit on here on these apps and all they do is go back and forth and they're debating. But who are you helping?
yeah,
Like, I mean, I can care less about all this stuff that you know. But if you're going to be on here, you're going to be smug and gross. And if you're just going to act like women shouldn't even dare join your stupid little debates, if you won't be bothered to hear about anybody else's theology besides your own, then what? What do you want?
yeah,
I'm not here for your ego pleasure.
yeah. He didn't. Um, the gentleman that was on last night, that was Catholic, started off pretty kind and asked permission to kind of do his spiel, which was I thought about it for a split second. I was like, you know what, just let him do his thing. I thought about being like, yeah, no, because I
You
know
did though, Ryan. You paused.
I paused
Like,
and I
yeah, it
was
was a noticeable pause.
like, go ahead, and I did. I obviously thought about it because he didn't. He sound you'll recognize this, Brandy, but he sounded like he knew the Bible well and knew his stuff. He was dropping verses and dropping Old Testament stuff, but he didn't know his stuff well at all. Is the reality. And you could tell as he progressed with his kind of his homily or whatever you call it, some dissertation about his about why the Catholic Church is the only one and true church and something like that. And then he got into this crazy like numerology stuff. Like, do you know that?
Yes.
Do you know that there's 20 books
Yeah,
that are written 3 years apart, and that's 77.
that was when I chimed in the comments and said, no, gematria by a Catholic. That's going to be interesting. But
It was
let me say one thing. A lot of times when I talk to people like that, I will ask them, "Can you tell me and show me Jesus without quoting scriptures to me or quoting the Bible to me, and do it that way? Can you show me Jesus that way?" And they have such a hard time doing that. They really have a hard time
I
doing
just
that.
don't know. I don't know if there's any benefit to like a lot of these like brash. And you guys have been on TikTok a lot longer than I have, but that was the first real like bro panel of like it just looked like this fraternity. Like it was super smug, super arrogant. They had like their talking points ready to go.
Yeah.
They weren't the obviously they're not
And,
thinking of their own thoughts. They're like
we call them Phil Bros.
yes. It seemed like you could like I imagined that across the world there was like 1,000 of them doing the same thing with the exact same talking points. Like, let's say this and let's say this and this is the verse that goes with this and this is
It's
why.
a script.
Yes, it
Yeah.
seemed
They're you know they're over here debating scripts given to them by seminaries, and they're trying to see who learned it the best.
I think they
Oh Lord.
I think they get it. I think they get it not from seminarians, although maybe it seems like they get the points from like Charlie Kirk's and Josh Howerton's and Matt Driscoll's and all these like mega big. So that's the only thing. The only thing I've done on Instagram that's like I'll call it once a week or every other week I'll do a video about Christian nationalism. Like when Doug Wilson had his CNN appearance. I knew of Doug Wilson before that, but
Mm.
he was on CNN a couple of weeks ago, and with Pete Hegseth, kind of like he's like endorsing and loving what this guy's doing, and now he's opening a church in DC. Like it's next level. So I'll address that. I'll address when Charlie Kirk will say something, and there was about how some black person got their job because of DEI or some just trash. But he does it with like in a Bible message. Like he all of his just racism and
Hmm.
misogyny and all like xenophobia and homophobia and transphobia. He's got them all right, and but he presents all those just wrapped in scripture, and he spouts them off. He knows one verse after another, and well, what about this and what about that, and it seems like all these young guys are just
It's
parroting what he's.
yes, they're trained. So when Paul Weyrich, there was another guy that was before him, but they all got together and they all said, "Hey, we can no longer use derogatory terms like the N word and stuff like that. So we have to figure out a way to intellectualize our white supremacy." And so a lot of that stuff that you're hearing, that stuff that they've gotten together to figure out how they can sell it to the nation.
And it
And
shows.
they, yes, it shows.
But you can tell that it's not even like there's no brain power, there's no intellect, no critical thinking. It's just like it is like they got the script. Here's what you need to do on your TikTok live tonight. Make these 7 points, and here's how you're supposed to argue them. But they're
But
all
if
garbage.
if you listen, if you listen strong enough, you will hear the tulip. You will
Yeah.
hear if you will hear the tulip. Their favorite is election. That's their favorite one. They love to be the elect.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're so smug on those little debates because they feel as if they have the right theology
Because
and
they're
everybody else, whether you're Catholic, Lutheran, those I'm going to say specifically Calvinists, especially the real, the difference. Like, there when you run into like a reformed covenant individual, but
versus
the difference between that and Calvinism because it's like when I was in college, it was like a stench. Like I just like they'd get around me and I say, there's something that's wrong about this,
Yeah.
and just the way that your attitude is. I just couldn't get around it. It was just an arrogance, especially when it was Black History Month, because they used to give us chapel for the whole month as a celebration. And it was the only time they invited Black pastors to speak.
Oh my
and,
God.
and
I bet that's over now too. I would imagine.
so
That's crazy.
every time, and it was every year when Black History Month would roll around, you would think that I would love it, that I hated it because I had to go sit in the cafeteria and listen to the Theo bros tear their sermons apart.
Yeah.
I used
They
to just
they
hate it.
they they love to be able to think that they're in a place of superiority so that they can
Uh-huh.
look down upon anybody that does not believe exactly like them. It's more of a power trip for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's very narcissistic and in
Hmm.
my mind sociopathic,
It's
and
empire. It's
it is total
empire.
empire. It is total empire, colonialism. There are so many descriptive words that we could use, but basically, when I look at them, I feel, what's empty? What is so empty in yourself that you have to belittle other people? What's missing? Tell me about your childhood is what I want to say. Sit down on the couch and talk to me about, what, everybody says, well, were you church hurt? What hurt you to make you so superior
Mm-hmm.
to anybody else? And I don't think, I mean, I'm not a Christian, but I don't think that's what Jesus was trying to teach people. I think he was trying to teach a little bit more about unity and compassion and empathy. And
Mm-hmm.
like, Ryan had said earlier at some point about how they have even made the word empathy, a word of derision. And, same with the word being woke, when, they use that like a weapon. And it's very sad because what they're fighting against is a progressive thing that eventually liberalism, progressiveness always wins. I mean, I hate to tell them that, but it always wins.
I found great comfort in the fact that Christian nationalism will fail.
It will.
And I know
Absolutely.
it could be terrible, but between now and then, I don't know what's in store, but that's the one thing we can kind of be sure of. It's not going to work. And I had somebody tell me that what seems to be happening is as the church has lost about 5% of its congregation over every like decade to decade since the 70s.
And half of their missionaries.
Right. And so this is like the church is slowly going down, and it's in its hospice stage, and in an effort to survive, it is latching onto the government, and it's not,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not going to work either. But the last time that, I mean, this has been done before, and in the 30s, in the 30s, the church in Germany latched on to the empire, except for a handful of people. One of them, his name was Dietrich Bonhoeffer,
Mm-hmm.
Bonhoeffer, yeah.
and he was like, no. He and a couple other guys started a church called Confessing Church, and they broke off, and they were just 0.0001%. And so my hope in this, among other things, I want to love people well. Like I want to keep that the goal. But I want to be a Bonhoeffer. Like if it does get that bad, I want to be in the tiny
Right.
percent that was like, I tried. This is all I could do. I don't have a building, and I think buildings cost money, and that causes problems because you get a building and you get excited and you get people in it, and you want to take all their money so you can put a gym on the back of the church. And I know we talked about that the other night, but it becomes a money. Like a corporation just squeezing every penny that it can get to make more money, to get more people in, to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it should be that way, of course. And I think having a church that's very financially transparent and does the right things with their money and shows everybody that that's what they're doing, I think maybe that's ideal. But Mine is just no money, no money, no risk of like, um,
I would prefer that
yeah,
though, Ryan,
Yeah, I really enjoy this
actually.
a lot.
Well,
Hmm.
from my
So,
point of view, it is more close to what Jesus said, which is sell all your stuff and follow me.
I got in a
You know,
little,
right.
I got a little bit of grief on Threads because I posted something along the lines of we were having an interaction and someone said, "Don't you shouldn't have called yourself church," because that the term itself, most people scrolling on TikTok will be like, "Oh,
No, what does the Bible say about church though, Ryan?
right,
It says, wherever two or more of you are gathered,
yeah,
That's
that
right.
is my church.
exactly."
That's
And so
right.
but they said don't call it church because for the same reason they called it, they would refer to themselves as followers of Christ or followers of Jesus instead of Christian. Because when people see the term church, what I've done by calling this Reconsider Church is alienate half of the target audience. That's what she said. Like she said, you're by putting church in the title, you're going to miss the people you're trying to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
I sorta agree with that. And
Maybe.
if I was to word it, I would say a sanctuary for people who left church.
Yeah.
Um, but I understand that comment because I mean, when I first saw you, I did scroll by, and then I came back and listened for a moment. So
I think it's
I
whoever
do
you'll attract. Like, I think that some people won't mind the word church, and you'll attract the people that you're supposed to attract.
the people that need it will be
That's a
here.
great
That is
point,
true.
Randy. That's a good point.
Listen, Ryan, the first night that I met you, everything within my entire being was like, don't talk to him.
Yeah.
Don't even, don't do it. And
Yeah.
then after we had that conversation in Princesses Live, I followed you,
Hmm.
and I'll be here every Wednesday. And if you want to call this me being in church, then okay, we'll call it me being in church.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That's why I thought, and we can. I tried to make it clear on Instagram. It's gotten difficult, but there is no expectation with this church. If somebody like an Earth is just like, I'm not interested. I've read John before. All I want to do, I don't want to do the reading John piece or the prayer piece or the, you know, but I'll do the helping someone in need piece. Just join for that part. That's why I was like, an atheist would love
Right,
this. Just skip the first two
right.
parts and do the third part and be part of a community that's doing stuff to help the poor. Um,
So,
but I
like,
felt,
the three things that you said, that you want to accomplish with this, um, like, I already do the third one, right? I do that all the time. Um, the other two, my thought on it is like I would love to get back there. I so would love to get back there. So if you'll just give me a minute,
oh yeah,
if you just be patient with me and give me a minute.
I don't, I truly like I'm not in like I want like I have an agenda to get somebody somewhere. My agenda is to be like yes to all the people out there who are like I thought Jesus was supposed to be loving or cared about other people or
Right.
cared about anybody. They're like I don't understand. I thought Jesus was. I just want to make like we're not crazy. We're not crazy. Yes, that's
No, it doesn't feel like this is an agenda. It
yeah.
doesn't.
I
No, not at
appreciate.
all.
I yeah. I'm learning too. Like I said, Brandy is very sorry. Brandy, I read a little bit of your article on Substack, and I could tell from our first interaction, like you obviously know this stuff well. There was a time coming right out of graduate school that I think I would have been at my peak, ready to have deep theological, intellectual discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in the rearview mirror for me a little bit because now it's just about um, like my career is just about being. I spend 40 hours with patients and their families, not pastoring a church where I'm like reading a whole bunch of
Right.
the newest stuff. And I want to give Roger a chance. God bless you, Roger. You've been down there so patient and so kind.
He is
Right?
such a he is such a
Roger's
patient
been so
person.
quiet.
Can we give him the floor for a bit? And thank you again for your patience, good sir.
Oh, you're absolutely ain't no issue. I've enjoyed listening to the conversation. So no worries on my end. As far as the biblical text goes, I am what you would call a fulfilled eschatologist. And what this is, if you don't know, is just someone who studies end time prophecies and studies the end times revelations and Matthew and Mark and Luke and whatnot. Now I study the whole text, but that's my specialty. I got studies in the Near Mid East, different religions and cultures. I've got studies in Hebrew, Israelite, and first century Judaism culture. And I do have a little bit scrawled out across on Hebrew, very little, and Greek. As I studied, I picked this up when I was looking for translations and what these words meant in Greek to get a better understanding of the text. Going back to fulfilled eschatology, this is a belief that through the text, through history, and through audience relevancy, we believe that this text was to the first century people, and Jesus returned 2,000 years ago in the generation in which he said he would, which was his disciples' generation.
Yeah, that's a really good. Thank you for sharing that, Roger. You sound like you've done a deep dive. Have you studied Daniel some, just out of curiosity?
I've studied Daniel a lot, but you wouldn't want to hear my take on Daniel probably.
Another time.
I love your take on it as the out person here, but one of the things that is so interesting about that is that if you do read the Bible itself and the text, what he's saying, has to be true, or Jesus was a liar.
Yes.
And so to me, I understand what he's saying, even though I don't necessarily care nor believe about it. I do understand it from that standpoint. And, that's the whole thing is that, we're able to have these conversations without, oh, well, you're going to hell, Roger.
That's,
You
that's,
know,
that's a whole nother conversation, Scott. There is no
oh,
hell.
I know we've had that one before.
I love it. Roger, thank you for joining us for your patience. At some point,
Absolutely. I would like to add.
I would like to hear more about that at some point, especially your take on Danny. We don't have to do it tonight because I know it's
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I look forward to it, and I don't want to overstep any bounds or anything. But if I'm ever present in your live and up on the panel, or even in the panel, and you would like somebody to see the scripture from a cultural standpoint, how they seen it in their culture, I'm more than willing to come up to explain that. But never do I want to put something onto your platform that you don't want there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Roger. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot that I wouldn't like here. I mean, we can have some dialogues about it. I said a few months ago, I made a post on Instagram that said that everyone's welcome at our church. I think everyone would like our church, except Christian nationalists. I think they'll hate it. Like you're welcome.
Christian nationalism is a cancer, and it needs to be eradicated.
Yeah. So that's a big part of our mission, but that's more my.
At least everybody on the panel agrees with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
agree with a lot that's considered
in the event that one comes here, how much time do we? I guess I'll take a crack at it. I guess you guys don't have to interact, and I'll just be like, tell me why you feel that way, and ask a couple questions, and then just be done with it. Like, I don't want to spend. I've had this a couple times with Princess. I've had a couple times with Princess where Princess has like a lot of MAGA folks that like she kind of invites them to come up and explain why you voted the way that you did or why you believe the way that you did. And so what ends up happening is they come up. Sometimes there's two or three of them up at the same time, and there's two or three liberal folks also. But every now and then, there's no MAGA folks, and so what happens is a conversation just starts from the other people on the panel, and that's my favorite part. Like as soon as somebody MAGA comes in, I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. Like it be not. I understand why she's doing what she's doing, and she's really good at it, and I love listening to those discussions. I only say it's a bummer because I'm like, man, we were having like that was a good conversation that was
It's
happening,
such a good conversation.
and then
Yeah.
somebody pops up and they're like, I'm 27 and I'm from Nebraska and I voted for Trump and he's making this is the best country we've ever been in right now, and just of course
He's your daddy.
he announced it. I can't imagine announcing to your crowd that I love the poorly educated and just they cheer.
Right?
I
Love
can't
it.
imagine saying right here, like, you know what I love about my panel in on TikTok? They're all just so absent-minded, and then you all would be like, "Yay, that's us."
Well, I think that Brandy hit it on the nail when she was talking about, I mean, they destroyed the Department of Education. We have this uneducated, you know, populace of young people that unfortunately, this is what they have landed upon. And I think a lot of it, especially for the young men, is that they feel emboldened and empowered by it because they have,
Hmm.
they have this sense of, my culture's been robbed by these DEI people and all these inward peoples, and they go off on all this other stuff that really is not true because, hey, if your culture's falling apart, it's, you're part of it. Why is it falling apart?
Right.
And
And you can't
person,
give an honest answer. You can't be like like immigrants are not why your life is miserable. You're an idiot.
Exactly.
You're an idiot, and that's why your life
Exactly.
is miserable. You can't obviously I kind of frame that in a more loving way, or I'm going to miss my mission. But I don't even
well,
know if the interaction is worth the time. Like we talked about it, like this scripted, like we've got their points. Like should I feel like that doesn't hold up for all of these different reasons, and whoever you're listening to is lying to you.
If I
Honestly, I think that, um, you know, in Jesus's time, I think that a lot of people misread what's happening. I think I've talked to you about this before, how if you just start with John the Baptist as your starting point, not the story of Jesus, but if you start at John the Baptist as your starting point and you watch the whole political fallout of John the Baptist, and then once they beheaded him, you see Jesus's response. He goes by himself. He's grieving. I probably would have been in there cussing like, God, you sure I will blow them up? Because that's my cousin. But he comes out and it said that all the people came from all the towns because John the Baptist was well loved. He was a well loved prophet. People were going out there. They were asking him for advice, and he was the voice of the people, and people came from all the towns, and Jesus came out, and it said that he reached out to them toward with compassion. They were all grieving together. And I think that sometimes we miss what we're looking at in the Bible, especially in Revelation. And Roger, you can correct me, but the way I see it is that it's a coded resistance letter that's being passed around to the churches, and they're having a very Jewish conversation about Rome. They understand what's in the text. They understand the stories and the prophecies. They understand. From my understanding, it's written in a specific. It's like a puzzle. It's written in a specific kind of way, and Rome wouldn't have understood what the letter said, but because it was so deeply Jewish, they understood exactly what the letter. And it's kind of like what we're doing is we understand that the empire is rising, and we're finding our people in this time. You
Yeah,
know,
you're
we're
absolutely correct. It's a coded message. Matter of fact, it tells you that in the story. It said that John was told to signify what he saw. That means to symbolize. So
mm,
you're absolutely on point. This is a coded message to keep Romans from understanding if they was to intercept one of these letters, they wouldn't have known what was being said.
Right. So it's
And
very
that goes for the whole 666 numerology stuff,
neuro.
gematria and Nero and
Right.
the things that those symbolized. Um, and I had said last night, and this is something I'd said that got me in trouble with JL, the Catholic guy, was that to me, there have been probably some psychoactive substances used in this mystery cult, because it did come out of a time that the mystery cults were in vogue, and that time had, I mean, Jesus himself said, well, I'm going to say some things to those that have ears to hear, but to others I'm not going to say it. And that's why he gave it things in parables. And I had said basically that some psychoactive substances, an example for Revelations was that John ate the scroll, just like you would, if you did a piece of LS, the other word LS,
Yeah, don't say that on here.
yeah, I'm just going to
Yeah.
say LS. Um, and you know, it may not be true, but there's a lot of what I think is hard evidence that is out there, and it's something that we need to think about because it's the way that things evolve, and people have used these things for millennia upon millennia,
Are you
and
are you referring to extra activities, Scott?
yeah,
Things that we
they
would
were
call them
actually
drugs?
used.
Yes, actually, that is true. That's there's archaeology evidence to back that up. The
Well,
incense
that's
that they
what
were
started my argument with the Catholic guy last night, and the reason he got so mad at me and called me a blasphemer heretic because
yeah,
he
whatever.
didn't think that I was
No,
anywhere
no,
near spot on with that.
well, no, you
And
are.
The earth
The
is
incense,
out of
yeah,
gravity.
the incense they would burn in the temple. That
yeah,
incense is exactly what
I
you're
said
talking about, Scott.
I said that last night,
Yeah.
and I sent Ryan some of the you know examples of the scholars that I was talking about, so that he
Hmm.
could see that I wasn't totally a piece of dumbass.
Yeah. Now you
And
won't point.
Did
Yeah.
you,
and
out of
even
curiosity,
even if it did not happen throughout history, it has happened, and it's a viable way of gaining spiritualness that opens up the because what it does most of the time, if you do it correctly, is it destroys the ego,
Mhm.
so that you sort of end up with that feeling of oneness with the rest of the universe. And you know that's what's missing. So if they're changing their communions to wafers and grape juice, that's fine, but a lot of times some of these people need to some of our world leaders would do very well if they did these substances under the right circumstances.
You a mess. You a mess.
I want to
I
thank you
don't
guys.
think this.
My phone
I
is
don't know if
down.
there's a whole. Sorry, host. Sorry, Ryan.
No, that's okay. My phone is at 8%. I am also at 8%.
Oh, it's late too. It's about to be midnight.
But I
What about late? I'm on here at five,
think
6 o'clock in the morning. I suffer from insomnia, so
you're ready
Same.
for
He
I
needs
just
some
want
of those psychedelic wafers.
it's been a pleasure meeting all y'all.
You
I just want to
too.
say that out front. Ryan, thank you for having me up. I look forward to coming up and helping in any way I can,
to I appreciate your help.
in any possible way that I could possibly be of any assistance to you. And again, I wish you as much success as you can possibly muster out of this.
I am Roger.
No,
It's been so good to see you again. I appreciate you, brother.
Same here, Scott. You take care of yourself.
You too. We got
Ryan,
to
now I
catch
have to
up.
be upset.
What I do.
And
Why you say that?
you're gonna make me wait a whole week. You're gonna make me wait till next Wednesday to figure out what those questions are that you had for me.
Oh no, what were they? I'm not gonna make you
I
wait.
don't know.
Look,
One,
get off
one
here,
of them,
remember, and send it to her.
one of them we did discuss already. That I think was the most important one. But it wasn't. It wasn't a. deep question. It was about is there a appropriate term other than saying LGBTQIA? Is that the right thing to say when you're referring to that community? Because like I said,
That is.
I
Hmm.
heard people use um,
So,
the
so,
Q
so if you
word.
hear somebody use the Q word, they should be from the community. It's just like I, as a YT person, should not use the N word, even with an A at the end, right? That is not my word to use. Same thing with the Q word. That is not meant for people outside of the community because it's been used by people outside of the community in such a harmful way for so long.
You could also use the old fashioned term that we used to use, and we'd say, "Are you a friend of Dorothy?"
Yeah, you could say that too.
You know, we also we'd
I have no
say,
problem with
are
that.
you a family member? You know, are you family? You know, we say that to each other. But personally, I mean, I reclaim the Q word, and there's a great book, and it's called The Mother Language, and it describes where all these words come from and how we turned them into what we got today. But it really is a wonderful place. I mean, especially for people on the alphabet side here, because it was written towards us in a way. But you know, personally, I'm not offended by you calling me whatever you want, brother, because I'm beyond that point. And now for Frankie, I think that I'm offended when I hear people, you know, call my trans friends trannies and things like that.
Hmm.
I'm very offended
Yeah.
by that. If they call them trannies and, are disparaging in that way. But for myself, when they call me something, I'm like, hey, you think that hurts? Bring it on, baby.
Yeah.
Bring it on. So you're never going to offend me personally.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm still learning obviously as well, and I heard some people just say like LGB or LGBT or something like
Well, I
they
think
don't
They're
go all the
trying
way.
to
they're
remove the
trying to cut
T.
off the T part because
Hmm.
even within the gay community itself, we have a lot of our, family that does not think that the T part needs to belong to us. And the IA is, another extension of that where they say, intersex and others, they don't belong to us. And I'm like, no, but to me, that's very incorrect because, um, I don't know. I mean, I think it comes down to, do you know one? Have you ever really sat down and talked to one and had a good conversation with them and learned who they were as a human? Because they're humans. And, you're not going to knock on my friend that's a human just because you feel this way about your,
Yeah,
God or whatever and think it's sin and all that junk.
yeah.
And, but as far as TikTok goes, the only one I'd be careful about is the Q word because I did get knocked off for a week when I said it about myself, on a live and thought I was only talking to the two people that were on my live that were okay with it. They were also gay. And, I don't think you would ever use any disparaging things. It's friends of Dorothy, I think is an old time,
I had a
fun way to say it.
Yeah. There's a guy that's on Instagram he is a pastor and I like him a lot. And he is incredibly vocal in his support of this community, and he makes shirts, and he's got like he's an amazing ally and advocate for the oppression of that community specifically. And he has been for a long time, and he's got like I don't know 60,000 followers or something like that, and a lot of folks that follow him are members of that community. But he uses the Q word, the full to refer to the community. I've heard him a couple times, and I'm kind of like, bro, I don't know if you can do that, but he knows this stuff better than I do. Maybe
So
On
let,
Instagram, it's probably not the issue
hold
that
on,
it is
Earth.
for.
Earth, hold on a second. Let me explain it to you like this, Ryan. If you take the L and the G and the LG, B and the B and the T, the I and the A, okay. What is if you look in the dictionary, what's the definition of QUEER? It's something strange or different, right? So if you take the Q word and all of those other letters, then absolutely the Q word can be applied to the entire LGBTQIA community because we're different. It's
I
that
bet
simple.
I bet he has such an understanding. He's obviously such a like a known ally. I think that like I think when he says it, I don't know that it like offends anybody because I think he's probably unpacked like theologically and biblically why this is the appropriate word, right? It's just people that are different, like you
Mhm.
said, and that's all Jesus really. The only like that's all Jesus did was spend time with the people that were pushed aside, right, or the people that were
Mhm.
different, people that were
Yep.
different. That's all he did his whole ministry, and I don't want to go into the whole a whole sermon about it, but we are trying
I
to be
think
as close to a church as Jesus intended. I posted that a while ago, and I got some interesting feedback. But somebody said you should change the name of your church or the name of your page because church is going to alienate the people who you're hoping to reach. And I wrestled with it for a while because I'm like, that is giving that is surrendering a term to the Christian nationalists. Like you said, they all want power. They all want to be in control. When we cede the terms Christian and church and the ability to post Bible verses or empathy, all the stuff that they're sort of like taking away, I'm like, yeah, I don't want. You're not allowed to do that. So it's a stubbornness in me that's just like,
No, I think it's warranted, Ryan, because okay, um, just using that word, I think that you still are going to attract and pull in the people who are supposed to be here. I'm here. I fought against it, right?
yeah,
The first night that I came in here into your live, you said, "Hey, Street, you want to come up?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, mm-mm.
sorry.
I'll just stay down here and listen." Like I fought against it, but I'm here because because it's comfortable and there's something here. There's absolutely something here. I don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
don't know, but um I'm willing to stick it out and find out.
I
That's
love
all I
it.
can tell you in this moment.
I love it, Streaker. I love it. I'm glad to be completely honest. I don't know what's ahead for this either, and I want to stay open to that. Like I don't come with an agenda of this is what I hope to accomplish or what I want everyone to think. That's not the goal. That's why I'm kind of like I don't know what I'm
I think if you let something like what you're doing organically evolve, it'll get
Hmm.
exactly to where you want it to
yeah,
be,
I agree.
Yeah.
Ryan.
I agree. That's why
And
just let it happen. Like I saw when Princess came on, she did something that said like, and I'm a big fan of hers, so she would be
yeah,
a
I
big
want to check it
saying
out
this.
more.
But she put something in there that said like, help Ryan get to 1,000K or whatever,
5,000
1.5K.
light.
Right.
Tap the
That's
screen.
people tapping the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh. In the event that can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think the microphone and now soon the phone will also unalive. um,
If it does, we
but
understand.
yeah, and we'll do it again. But I don't know where this is heading, but I do know that there are a lot of people um, that are it's hard or they've left the church and they've left faith almost entirely in some capacity,
Hmm.
but in varying levels, and they don't know kind of where they stand. These are the conversations that I've had. So I know that I'm not alone, and that because I've talked to too many people to know. Like, and usually what I end up telling them is just like, please know that it's not just you. Please know that it's not
Yeah,
just you. Like even somebody that's been away from the faith for 35 years and is kind of like, I don't know if I'm like heading toward atheism or where do I stand on that or where to, it's not my goal to be like, you need to come down on Team Ryan, not on Team Earth. Like it's not a, and that's why I don't know what to do. I'm still figuring that out, and I don't think going into the six young guys and just throwing some haymakers, like just point out how bad their theology is and how everything they're saying is wrong and discredit it biblically, like line by line. I'm capable. I feel equipped to do that. It just seems like it's useless,
right.
but it's not.
I I think all you can do, Ryan, is listen. Okay, the old Christian in me is getting ready to come out. Um, I think all
Uh-oh.
that you can do is pray and meditate on it, and you'll know what to do.
Yeah,
You'll know the right way to go.
yeah. I know that, like, yeah, I appreciate that. I could tell that with those guys. I tried to get in when Brandy was in there, and I couldn't. And I could feel my blood pressure rising just watching them. And it was kind of like,
Hmm.
don't bother. Not because it's not an important thing to correct what they're saying. That needs to happen. I just don't know if that's my role in all of this. I think my role is like I don't know that if somebody came up, I'm ready to just have like a full on argument and throw Bible verses around and try to discredit or disprove or whatever. I like, I'm able to do that. I just don't know if that's what's ahead for us. I don't think so.
Yeah, scripture wars don't get you too far. I honestly believe. Um, I think that you have an honest, open dialogue, like you have shown me in the past 2 days, is the most appealing. You know, and I think that for myself as someone who's on the outside of Christianity, being able to actually reconnect with some decent Christians has helped me because I grew up in that culture.
Mhm.
That culture is nationwide here in the USA, and I have to deal with it. And if I'm gonna deal with it, I would prefer to deal with it with people like you instead of the nationalist folk. And Chris, I have no idea how you answered that, but I guess you did. Um, but I think you're doing very well. But again, my suggestion earlier, the only way I would change your heading would be to say something along the lines of a sanctuary for people who left church. Maybe that would be less. You have church in there twice, so maybe that would be a difference, or some word
Good
similar.
idea.
You know, that would
It's a good idea. And I need to
just
scoot.
soften it. But I
Yeah, I
think
think
no
that's
matter what, that Frankie's correct. The people that are really going to get anything out of it, you know, that your feed will be given to by the algorithm. I think those people will come naturally, and sometimes it's not so fun to have 300 people in your live. I mean, I've done that, and it's very very hard, especially if you get a full panel. You've got 6 slots here, and if you had all of them full and everybody was wanting to say something, it's hard to. And that at that point, you want to have moderators to help you out and
that
stuff
was my
like
other.
that.
You reminded me. That
And
was my other. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
this thing, but um, I think that was one of the other questions. I had a real question for Streak, but I am drawing a blank. Not that the other ones were not real, but it was a question about moderators. I don't know anything about moderators, or somebody mentioned to that. Mr. Society said like I'll moderate or something. Like the first time I went live.
Right. So moderators need to be people that you absolutely trust
right.
and people that you know will only bring up people like that won't bring up the people that you don't want up or will mute comments that are absolutely outside of what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, yeah, moderators are a good thing. So all you have to do is click on if they're in the chat, the person's name. If they're on the panel, click on their box. and it will, I believe it is the three bars on the right. And if you touch on that, it gives you, you have to go like all the way to the bottom. It gives you the option to make them a moderator for your live.
Manage guests and more? No. Um, so I just tried what you just said to make you a moderator. Do you mind if I practice real quick and then we'll call it a night?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
I'll tell you why I don't want you to be a moderator next, but don't be offended by that. I'll explain. Manage
I
guests
will not be offended.
and manage guests. And are you a moderator now? Can you tell if you're a
Let me see.
moderator?
Yeah, so let me type something. Um, yes, see that little person looking
Oh
thing
yeah,
next to my name? That means that somebody, whoever it is, the person is a moderator.
yeah. The reason that I don't want you to be a moderator, and I do, I would be happy to have you as a moderator. But when Princess came in, and I don't really care about people. I don't want people to tap the screen. I'd rather
Hmm.
talk. And I feel like if you're the moderator, you are, or if you're just like an ally, you want to tap to get my number up. But I don't care about the number. Like it doesn't, and I know that's how it goes up in the For You page, and that's how you reach more people. But what it takes away is not worth it. Like to have you as a moderator, you have to be watching my comments,
You do.
making sure they're appropriate, getting
Yes.
like you can't really fully be present in what we're doing if you're a moderator. Is that true or no?
Um,
Sorta. I mean, it takes some work, and I mean, I have to admit, when I was a moderator for a friend, um, somebody said something that I took to be offensive to what was going on in the live, and I muted him for 5 minutes or whatever, and he had to reach out to me and say, "Hey, that was my friend. We were joking," and I was like, "Oh,
and
okay," you
Yeah.
know.
so I think the
So,
other thing that you run into is if you even mute people, not blocking them, if you mute people, sometimes they'll get mad and then they'll report your live. And you don't
right.
want, that's such a bad thing to happen. So I think with the small numbers that you have in here right now, Ryan, I don't think that you actually need moderators.
Yeah,
Not
you
at
can
this
take care of
point.
it yourself. When it stays small, it's like I said earlier. When you get to having 300 to 400 people at a time in your live, then it
Oh
might
yeah.
become a little bit of an issue. But even then, I still never had a moderator. I just handled it all myself, and
Hmm.
a lot of times that meant that I was leaving a lot of comments just to go ahead and fly by and not, really, you
Yeah,
know, deal with them. But I didn't really care at the time, and so it's sort. Again, I think organically, when you go through this for a little bit longer, you're going to figure that out, and you're not going to have to worry about it. And you'll find the people that you want to have as moderators if you need one. You'll know when you need one.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but I myself too am maybe just because I'm not good at multitasking, but I don't really read the comments because I am trying to be engaged in the conversation. So when we're talking, I'm not looking down on the left and reading what people are saying. And
hmm,
It's hard to do both at the same time
yeah,
sometimes. So, but
just
while it's small numbers, you can pause long enough to go through the comments a little bit just to sort of get you know, a view of what people are sort of saying in the comments, and then come back. Most people are going to know that that's just part of TikTok, and you're doing it.
yeah. I
Is that correct to you, Frankie?
yeah, yeah. Like, but I'm serious. Right now, I don't think you need moderators.
no, I
Right.
don't, and I know. Hopefully, it stays like this because I definitely don't. There's three of us. I think right now, right? Is that what that one is? Three. I can't even
Yeah.
read the other one. 1.8. But my point was that like when she came on, it's just like let's tap and let's get him up the For You page and get and share out the live. I hear all the time, and I'm just like I don't care about any of that. I'd rather just have a conversation. But then I also don't want to like you helped Earth with the guy that I just left in the request up thing for for 5 minutes. Like I wasn't paying attention. I was not looking down at that, and I need to, I guess, right? If someone comes into the requests up, just let them up, right?
Not
Okay.
always. I mean, like the person I said that you could let up that obviously wasn't worthy to get up. I mean, you wouldn't want to, if you know them to be too antagonistic or whatever, no. But, you can let them up. And sometimes, I mean, like I've done that and had people say some, especially if you're openly, of the alphabet group, that, you let
So,
people up and they say some very, very nasty things,
yes,
and it's in the attempt to get your life knocked off, really.
Yeah, I've seen
right.
that before. One of the first night I was on here, I joined a guy named Viper Vet, and then I went over to Princess after that, and there was a couple people on different occasions that just came up and started like rapid fire
Oh
with the
yeah,
N word,
yep,
with
yep,
just trying to. I was just like, good Lord, like what am I getting my? And
yep.
this was when I was first on TikTok. I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But it'll work out.
It will. You're
And
doing
thank you
good
guys.
things. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
It's been a real good night. Thank you both. I
appreciate
really
you guys.
appreciate having met both of you,
Appreciate
and
you too, Ryan.
um,
We'll do it
it's
again.
very enjoyable.
It won't be all the way till next Wednesday before I'm on. I'll see you again before that, Streaker.
All
And hopefully
right.
you see Earth.
All
All
right,
right.
I
Thank you
appreciate it,
guys.
and you have a good night, Frankie.
All
Okay.
right.
You too. Good night, Earth. Good night,
Good
See you
Ryan.
night.
guys.
Good night,
Bye bye.
Ryan.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.